All right, so before I jump into all of the signs, I did want to let you guys know that just for the month of February and the first week of March, I'm offering a different type of reading called an abundance reading. And basically, what I'm going to be doing is looking at all of your luckiest days for the next 6 months, like the best energy when you might want to launch something, or when you might meet somebody, or when you might get more money. Basically, when you have opportunities, ideas, great conversations, breakthroughs come to you. So I'll list all those out for you and kind of explain what they are. And then I will do a tarot spread that shows you how to best take advantage of that energy over the next 6 months, how to best create more of that abundance in your life. Again, I'm only going to have this available for this month in particular, and I may also limit the amount of them that I'm offering just because it came to me in a meditation, so I wanted to offer it to you guys. But I don't necessarily want to make this like my whole kind of gig. I'm mostly doing astrology coaching. So if you are interested in getting your abundance reading, definitely check that out in the link down below while they are still available. And I will see you guys there. Hey guys, this is Courtney from Willow's Bloom, and I'm here to talk to you today about the weekly forecast that we have coming up, specifically focusing on the Virgo full moon that we have on March 7th. But I did want to talk about some of the transits that are coming up before that, because we have some really beautiful and exciting stuff the days prior that I think are definitely worth mentioning. So starting off on March 1st, we have Jupiter conjunct Aries, or sorry, Venus conjunct Jupiter in the sign of Aries. So wherever you guys have Aries, we're all having an opportunity to bring the two best parts of astrology, the two benefics, the two most abundant giving planets that we have the opportunity to bring them together, which can usually mean that we have a more abundant day in general, better relationships, better luck, improvement, especially in our confidence, because we've been having, as a collective, Chiron move to the sign of Aries, which has a lot to do with actually our wounded masculine within society. So things like toxic masculinity, lacking confidence, people not taking action towards their goals, not knowing what makes them special or standing up for themselves. Those are all kind of Aries qualities that Chiron has been highlighting. So in society, if we have lacked a certain courageousness to stand up for what it is that we truly desire, then Chiron will show that those weaknesses, those areas of weakness. And when Venus conjuncts Jupiter in the same sign, it's going to give us, again, this kind of healing salve in that area where many of us have the potential to learn or grow or move up a step in relation to our inner divine masculine. This has nothing to do with gender. This is just about that energy of taking action, going after what you want, having confidence, being assertive, being courageous. And many of us are going to understand what we need to do to make that possible. And I think many of us will start to just heal a little bit in that area of our life, not feel as much pressure. We also have Mercury conjunct Saturn on March 2nd. Saturn will still be at the last degrees of Aquarius at this point in time. So having Mercury conjunct Saturn at the last degrees of Aquarius can bring a little bit of kind of seriousness to our mindset. Overall, it can have us be making more important long-term decisions. So on the 2nd, it's a good day to make plans. It's a good day to sign contracts for things that could go for a long time, or there's no rush on them, especially things that you want to kind of have like lasting stability and maybe some patience involved with it. So something like, signing a deed to own property that you want to have for the rest of your life. I could see that being a beneficial thing. Normally Saturn is a malefic, so you wouldn't necessarily want an aspect with Saturn during that time. But it depends on what it is you're trying to look for, basically. If you're trying to have a really serious conversation, I could see that coming up naturally on this day. Just be sure not to be overly cold. You might notice that people are just a little bit more serious overall, and are sometimes a little bit less empathetic when we have especially in the sign of Aquarius. And we have Mercury there and Saturn all together. So overall, it could be a good day to make certain commitments, certain plans, to decide to start or stop things that are especially relevant to Mercury topics, which is related to our siblings, related to contracts, communication, our ideas, our plans, kind of how we go about marketing ourselves, all of those areas of our life, travel, transportation. There's more, but those in particular, the things that have to do with connecting human to human, could have some kind of finality, beginning or ending to it, could have more kind of oomph behind it. And for those of us who tend towards depression, you might feel a little bit like down that day in particular. But because Venus conjuncts Jupiter the day before and that energy will still be lingering, I think for many of us, we will actually see the positive sides of Mercury and Saturn together. If you are a Virgo or a Gemini, you are more likely to be affected by your ruling planet Mercury with Saturn. You're more likely to feel a little bit restricted that day or a little bit down. But again, because Venus and Jupiter are still together in the sky, many of us are having more upliftedness and hope, if not across the board, at least in a specific area of our life, wherever you have the sign of Aries. So I think they are kind of tempering each other out. And that's something that we've experienced also recently when Venus conjuncted Neptune and Saturn conjuncted the Sun, or the Sun conjuncted Saturn. We all kind of got this weird mix of energy where some of us had a really chill, peaceful week and some of us had like a really horrendous week because we had a big mix of energy. And we might see something like that here, or we might get a blend of the two at the same time. So like mitigating each other. And it really just will kind of depend on where this is hitting in your chart personally. On the 3rd of March, we have Venus conjunct Chiron in Aries. So a lot of that healing that I was talking about in the collective around masculine energy is going to be more so highlighted on March 3rd. And it's at 13 degrees of Aries. So if you have any planets around 13 degrees of Aries, especially the cardinal signs or even the other fire signs, you'll start to notice that area of your life will get a little bit of some alleviation. Is that a right word? Is that a word? It will be more alleviated because Venus is coming in here to, again, kind of smooth things over, and have the potential to also do that specifically through relationships. Venus tends to improve our relationship with ourselves, but oftentimes this will come because somebody else like gives us a compliment, or somebody else does or says something that supports us and makes us feel loved and understood. And because of that, it helps improve what's inside. All right, so now let's go ahead and talk about what is going on with this full moon in Virgo. And then that's what I'll talk about for all of the rising and sun signs. And then there are a few transits after that are pretty much active during the full moon that I will also address. So this full moon in Virgo is happening at 16 degrees of Virgo, and it's making a square to Mars. So I'm sure we all know that Virgo is a very kind of conscientious energy, and having a full moon here, generally full moons are going to result in culminations or bigger experiences of something. So having it become obvious, having things come to a head, having a realization of some sort, that's very much a full moon energy. So having this happen in a conscientious sign where we are concerned with our work efforts, where we're concerned with our choices and decisions, how prudent we've been, how humble we've been, how hardworking we've been, how organized or healthy we've been, the decisions that we've kind of made up until that point in time will become clear. And if there are ways in which we have been not making the best decisions in regards to maybe our health or our routine or our organization or our work, those kind of, again, conscientious things, I think we'll start to see the culmination of that at this point in time. We'll start to see that some of those decisions pay off or don't pay off in the way that we were hoping. So I just pulled the 3 of Swords in reverse, 4 of Cups in reverse, the World, and the Magician. Interesting. Before I talk about those cards, I wanted to kind of continue on with this storyline, because I do feel like many of us could experience a need to change our behavior. So again, if we have been kind of following down some kind of pattern that we've always been doing, let's say, for example, you have been kind of slacking off with your routine and you haven't been taking care of your health the way that you would like to, I think you'll start to notice that you're feeling maybe overweight, or you're feeling like you're having back pain, or you are, you stumble and you hurt your foot, and you really start to feel that those things that you've been doing with your body have started to take their toll. And this is especially true because this full moon is making a square to Mars in Gemini. These are both they're not both air signs, but they're both Mercury ruled signs. And I do think that on the 2nd, when Mercury conjunct Saturn, I think many of us will start to see, because that's only a mere 5 days before this full moon, I think many of us will start to kind of see the seriousness of things. So if there are ways in which, again, you've been kind of lacking your responsibility towards yourself and your life, on the 2nd, I feel like you could get a little bit of a jolting kind of energy of like, oh, this is not going to work long term. Like, I need to make another plan. And then around the full moon, maybe on that day or a few days after or before, you'll notice that there could be some kind of thing that shows up in your life as some kind of karmic response to how you've shown up for your duties, to how you've shown up for your responsibility over your life. And so I think many of us, because this full moon is making a square to Mars, I think many of us will realize, especially Mars being a sign of Gemini, which is very much like in our own mind, we'll realize how our way of thinking about things, our way of maybe kind of dispersing our energy to various sources, our way of being scattered or undisciplined, our way of being curious, almost like the fool energy, like very exploratory. I think many of us will start to see how that has hindered us in some facets. How if we've allowed ourselves to invest a little bit too much into different ideas, or become a little bit too Gemini in energy, where we're following these many different paths and we're not kind of focused and we're not super responsible, we're too changeable, we're too adaptable. I think many of us at this full moon will see where those little kind of like energy is kind of like seeping through those areas of our life. And it doesn't even have to be this like really big thing. We could just wake up and notice that, oh, we've kind of gone to bed 30 minutes too late every single night this week, and it's starting to make me feel tired. And so now I'm realizing that I need to do something about it. I can't just stay up consuming more information on my phone before I go to bed. Like, I need to change up my routine. And so it's almost like someone coming out into your life and is saying, like, tighten up the ship, like, let's go. And sometimes we have to change our mindset and our direction of energy and how we make choices and decisions in order to create more efficiency in our lives, and in order to be just inherently more responsible, more conscientious, and wise, I think, in many ways. And so because it's making a square to Mars, there are changes in our behavior, there are changes in our actions or our focus that are necessary here. We might need to become a little bit more disciplined. And everyone tends to have some area of their life where they kind of lose focus or they lose energy. And we can all kind of always make things a little bit better over time. And so I think that's really a huge part of this full moon in Virgo, is getting really clear on what we want long term. And I think on March 2nd, that will become clear to us with Mercury conjunct Saturn, which again, Mercury is the ruler of this full moon. So it's like it's meeting up with this granddaddy planet, this planetary ruler of the full moon. It's getting its lessons, it's like, oh, you should have been doing this, this is what you need to do long term. And then the full moon happens, and it's kind of this bigger awakening and realization about how to apply this to our lives, or how this has been working or not working so far. And this moon is also making a trine to Uranus. So ultimately, as we decide to make these certain changes, it's ironic how that will create the freedom for us that we really desire. So it's like, oh, if you truly want to feel expansive, free, like life is spontaneous and exciting, you actually have to become more efficient. Because if you notice that if you don't have a routine and you don't have a structure and you don't have order to your life, it actually will become chaotic and expand to fit the parameters, which if there are no parameters, it will expand to fit your entire life. So what that means is if you don't have a deadline, you just can do it whenever. You'll drag, I mean, not everyone will be like this, but many people will drag things on until they learn how to create certain deadlines and restrictions for themselves. And the dragging things on will mean that you don't actually have wiggle room in your life. You don't actually have time for self-care or to go outside or to do that thing that you wanted to do because you didn't take advantage of the time that you had earlier where you were supposed to do the task. And so now you have to do it later on in the week. And I'm guilty of this. I think everyone to some extent is guilty of this. And I can't remember what the name of it. It's like some law that they call it, where things will expand to fit the time that we allot it. And so I think many of us will find that we actually create more freedom and flexibility for ourselves and spontaneity and excitement in our lives by having this discipline and structure, by having this kind of routine and, I keep saying this word, but conscientiousness over our lives. And this full moon in Virgo with the sextile to Uranus or trining Uranus, depending if you're looking at the sun or moon, is also indicating that there can be sometimes some unexpected outcomes from our past actions. So if you have been working really hard towards things, you might unexpectedly get some kind of show for that action. Or if you haven't, you might have some kind of fated turn where things are not as great as you would hope they would be. And it doesn't have to be like this really big thing. It's going to depend on where it falls in your chart. But it is definitely going to show that our past actions will determine how good or how challenging the surprise is. But because the full moon is squaring Mars, I think for most of us, if not all of us, there will be a need to change the way that we have been doing things or thinking about things to some extent. All of us can improve our systems because our life is a system. It's an ecosystem, really. And every ecosystem can improve upon itself because the natural part of nature, nature will inherently move towards disorder and chaos. And so it takes constant upkeep and it takes constant revisions and care and attending to in order to create flow in the system. And that's why we need all the species, because all the species are part of taking care of each other and the ecosystem. And when it's our lives, we are the ones who are the species doing all of those things. And so when we let one area slide, we can really start to see how it gets overgrown with leaves and things start to kind of get moldy, or they're not adjusted to the current environment. And so basically what I'm trying to say is we all are going to have to make some adjustments overall. The sun in this full moon is also loosely conjunct Neptune, and it's going to be exact on March 15th. I don't really want to go super into this because I am going to come back and do a different video specifically on that, because soon, the week after this full moon, we're having a lot of like Neptune energy, which can be very specific and confusing. So I kind of wanted to address that on its own, but we might start to get a little taste of that during this full moon, where we might feel a little bit lethargic sometimes, or sometimes we can feel inspired or we can feel uninspired, and it kind of depends on what task we're trying to do. But you might feel like, yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave that for there, because let me pull one card on it, but there's so much. I just don't think that we're gonna experience it that strongly because it is at 8 degrees, and I think we're gonna really see it more the week after. So I pulled the card Wholeness, I Am Whole. So it's interesting because Neptune is actually how we return to our sense of wholeness with the universe. So I actually feel like this full moon is kind of preparing us by saying, when we have our lives in order, when we are taking care of ourselves, when we're taking care of the things that have been entrusted to us in this lifetime, that's actually a way that we can connect to the divine. And it might seem like that's not true, but when the universe gifts us with a home or gifts us with a car or a friend or whatever it is in our lives and we don't take care of it, it's really our way of turning our back on that gift. And so I think we are coming into a greater state of wholeness by adjusting our behaviors to become gracious and fully responsible for the things that have been given to us. So let me end with these cards because it's weird. I'm not really seeing a lot with these cards in particular related to what I was talking about. Oh, I also did want to mention in the future, we're having a Venus sextile Mars and Mars square Neptune transit. But again, I think I want to talk about that more the next week. So I'm just going to kind of shelf that for now. But just know that those transits are happening in the background, which can continue to inspire us, but also kind of deplete our energy. So we're having this really weird mix of like, let's be responsible, but we're also like not super energized for it. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. And for some of us, we might feel like we're getting super clear on what it is we need to do. We realize that we need to get things, whip them into shape at this full moon. We can kind of see the consequences of not doing so. But then the week after, it's like we're just kind of starting off without a lot of energy. We're somewhat inspired, but we also don't actually want to implement. Like we're kind of struggling to go out and implement. That's kind of what I'm seeing. And I think that's what this Four of Cups and Three of Swords is. Let me pull a card for the Three of Cups. Or Three of Swords, sorry. The Four of Cups is very apathetic, actually. Yeah, the Seven of Pentacles, the Queen of Swords. So there is something in us that's like, we're really resisting. It feels painful to set boundaries with ourselves, to work hard towards something. It feels like we want it, but we also find it extremely painful. And at times we're inspired, but at times we're apathetic. So I think many of us could be kind of going through that at this time. The nuance and the duality of life where we truly do want an outcome, but at the same time, we're just inherently a little bit lazy, or we're just inherently not wanting to do the hard stuff, or we're confused, or we don't know the next steps. And our energy doesn't really have a perfect outlet. And so I think that that's kind of the next 2 weeks what we can expect. But with the World of the Magician card, I really see us ending a cycle ultimately that will help us manifest what we are desiring. So whatever cycle we are stuck in kind of karmically with the Saturn card, where we might be just wasting our time or our energy in certain areas of our life and not taking advantage of what it means to truly be alive. I really see us becoming very aware of that, and it will probably take some time, maybe the next 6 months or so, but I really see us kind of whipping things into shape. I keep hearing the word ship, so I don't know if that's like a specific saying with ship. I don't know, that could be relevant to someone, but I really see us kind of tightening the ship. There's something with ship, and it's ultimately allowing us to become manifestors of the life that we're desiring. But we can't manifest if we are on our cell phones. If we're like wasting time, we're not going to have enough time to do the things that we need to do and take care of ourselves and everything if it's all just kind of being depleted. So this is an ending of that cycle. It may take some time, especially because I see in the week after we're really losing steam, and we might even be losing clarity and confidence, but also we're kind of inspired and excited at the same time. So it's like this weird energy of both. And so if you're experiencing that, just know that that's really, really normal. The other thing that I can't believe I haven't mentioned up until now is that on the 7th, on the full moon, we have Saturn moving into the sign of Pisces. This also makes a lot of sense for why we're going through this transition of realizing maybe where we have been a little bit too much in the flow, because Pisces is an energy of, you know, let's trust our emotions and our intuition. Let's kind of not set a super strong schedule. But Saturn comes in here and challenges that. And Saturn wants it to be more rigid and to adhere to a structure and to an existing tradition or existing expectation. And Pisces will really resist that. Pisces is formless. Pisces is timeless. And so it is a very contradicting type of energy that I think that, again, I don't even know why I didn't think about this at the time of this reading until just now, that this is exactly the energy we're experiencing in this full moon, where we are kind of having a foot in two different worlds. One world is like this very flowing and ethereal world, and one world is a very practical and earthly world, and we're very like disoriented, but we know what we want, but we don't know what we want. It's like a lot of the duality that Pisces brings. And Saturn, again, wants to have some level of control there. The most important thing to take away is what is in my long-term good or best interest. And that's what Saturn really wants for us, because Pisces energy can get out of hand really fast. But if we don't have Pisces energy, then we are missing the kind of magic fairy dust from our life that we need to be a soul and survive in this dense energy of a world. So we have to find some kind of integration of the two. And I'm going to do a video completely separately with another astrologer on Saturn and Pisces and what that means, because I have this natally. But I've really struggled with this my whole life. Like, how do I balance flow and schedule? And how do I balance emotion and intuition and sensitivity with, you know, a calendar and the world telling me what to do and being responsible and like all of those things, deadlines, you know, those things really don't go hand in hand, but they can be somehow kind of molded together in our unique way. And I think that's what we're trying to figure out at this full moon in Virgo, is not only where we have been having those leakages energetically, having the ship not be tight, or whatever that means, and we're going to finally do something about it. So definitely stay tuned for my video on Saturn and Pisces, because that's going to be a really, really big one. We're going to experience this energy for the next 2.5 years. And then we're going to go ahead and jump into what this is going to look like for all of the rising and sun signs. So stay tuned. All right, so up first we have Aries, rising, and sun. So I did want to let you guys know that before the full moon on March 1st, we have Venus conjunct Jupiter in your first house. So I think many of you guys, especially if you have any planets around, let's see, let me go back to March 1st. So I'm looking at my chart. I forgot to write this down. If you have any planets at or around 11 degrees of Aries or your ascendant, you will have a lot of benefits from this. And I think many of you guys will notice that people are much more generous with you. You have more opportunities come to you. Relationships improve. Confidence improves. So it's just overall a really beneficial time. And so just look out for that. And then let's go ahead and talk about the full moon in Virgo, which is happening on March 7th. This is at 16 degrees of Virgo, which is in your 6th house. And that means that the sun is right now in your 12th house. So often when the sun is in our 12th, it's usually more of a time of reflection, peacefulness, being by ourselves, maybe even feeling a little bit disconnected from the world or from our friends or our social group. We can become more contemplative and more internal. So that's kind of like the backdrop of the energy you might be experiencing. And this is a full moon in your 6th, which is going to put an emphasis on career and health and overall responsibility and well-being. If you haven't watched my overview, definitely go check that out, because you guys have the most kind of traditional interpretation of a chart, because because Virgo energy and the 6th house have very kind of conflated meanings in modern astrology or similar meanings. So I think many of you guys may have some kind of realization about your job or about your responsibilities or about your activities that will happen at this full moon. So let me pull some cards and then I'll talk about the aspects of this. Okay, I pulled the Death card. What is coming up for Aries on this full moon in particular? The Seven of Cups. Yeah. This is super interesting because I feel like you guys have been going through this large journey around learning more about yourself, because Mars has been moving to the sign of Gemini for so many months now. March is the last month it's going to be there. And I feel like you're coming out of this period where you had this Mars retrograde and you were just in this process of dabbling and exploring and learning about yourself. And I think that you are going to be reaching some kind of milestone here in terms of self-understanding. And that's partially because this full moon is squaring your ascendant ruler Mars. So it is going to impact you on a more personal level because your planet is involved. Mars is in your third house. So again, lots of like learning, discovering, interacting with your environment. That's kind of been the backdrop of what's been going on. And I think that many of you guys could have felt a little bit less centered in yourself because Aries and Mars energy is typically very focused and driven. You guys typically know what you want, you know where you're going, and you go after it. You know, it's kind of like it has this very straightforward masculine type of energy. But when Mars is in Gemini, which is a mutable sign, it's very experimental and it's very curious and adaptive and malleable. And it makes it really hard to get from point A to point B because typically Gemini will take a lot of tangents to get there and bring in lots of different types of experiences. So the good news about that is that you've been learning so much about yourself through these different avenues and these different maybe tangents or ideas that you can now kind of bring them onto your path and move forward with having a more expanded identity and more expanded knowledge base, which is, again, that's the good news. The bad news is that you could have felt like you were a little bit ADD, or you could have felt like you were changing your mind, or you weren't always certain, or you were kind of like your path was always changing. You know, that normal direct focus of like A to B became like A to D, and then all these little steps in between and tangents and backdoors and you know, and that's just not the typical energy that you're used to. So that could have been really frustrating for you. But I really feel like this full moon in Virgo and the fact that it's pretty much wrapping up this Mars energy. We don't have too much more of it after this. We have maybe like 2 weeks or a week after this with Mars and Gemini still. So you're pretty much ending this chapter of not necessarily just confusion, but I feel like integration of many different types of energy, which can feel confusing because, again, it's not just simple and straightforward as you might be used to in some of your like ways of behaving. So this could be also like you having lots of different tasks. So not maybe at work, you're usually given one job and you have one thing to focus on. And this is like having 3 projects at one time and you're just managing a lot of information and doing a lot more kind of miscellaneous or random things together. And it can feel like you're being split into multiple energies. And so I'm seeing that stopping with this Death and the 7 of Cups. I'm seeing that really changing up at this full moon because it is making a square to Mars in your third. I'm seeing that the energy is like compacting. It's making a decision. It's becoming more focused, more practical, more tangible, and not sort of so aloof or spread thin. And I think that's going to really benefit your sense of confidence, actually. And I also think it will benefit your finances. So if you have kind of done little tangents in different projects, I think it could have depleted your either confidence or money, or maybe you've had lots of different things that you've just been super busy spending your money on or spending your energy on that you haven't had time to like hone in on what it is that you're just really, really good at, and give all of yourself to that. And I really feel like this full moon, you're going to understand how to dedicate yourself to your craft. And it's also making a trine to Uranus in your second. So that dedication will help you in your confidence, in your skills, and in your finances. And you could also be learning how to manage money in a different way if that's been an issue for you as well. So I also pulled the Queen of Cups, the Nine of Wands, and the Six of Wands. So I think that some of you guys have probably been like emotionally exhausted following your intuition. With the Queen of Cups and Nine of Wands starting off, it's like you have been really following all of your hunches. You've been listening to what you need to do for yourself, but it's been really tiring for you because I think you've been on this journey of being spread really too thin. And ultimately, it's going to lead you to success with the Six of Wands. So all these efforts, what you've been putting into this is going to pay off. And I think you're going to find that you have a greater sense of understanding of yourself. Like I was mentioning at the beginning, the Six of Wands is Jupiter in Leo energy. Leo is about our essence, our gifts, our uniqueness, how we're meant to show up into this world and shine our light bright. And that has just been growing and growing and growing because of all these little tangents that you've been taking. So I really feel like you're going to feel liberated through this experience and a lot more focused. By like the middle of March, I think you're going to feel a lot more focused and a lot more in your own essence than ever before. I pulled the Inner High Priestess Divine Service. So ultimately, I think that you guys were becoming prepared to be more of service to the world. So you were probably learning things about yourself or going through certain experiences that will help you be more of service in the world. You're also about to have Saturn, or you are having Saturn on this day shift into Pisces in your 12th house. I'm going to talk more about this in a separate video, but just briefly, the 12th house is very much the house of service in Pisces as well. So I think that you guys are being called more into selflessness, and you were kind of accumulating all of your last tools in your toolbox to shift into this new phase of giving back to the world. To that new phase of selflessness and doing things for a bigger picture or for the collective or like the larger consciousness of the world. And so I feel like you guys were equipping yourselves to be prepared for that transition. This obviously won't apply to everyone because I do think that there are just some practical people out there who are just living practical lives, but you probably won't be watching this video anyway. But yeah, I think many of the people watching my videos are the light workers who are here to be of service to the world in some way. And this was this really important growth period for you that could have been, again, a little bit frustrating because it wasn't super grounded. But it was an important period for you to become prepared for this next 2.5-year chapter of devotion to service and to others. And that's very much a Virgo quality as well, which is where this full moon is happening. So a good question to ask yourself is, how can I use all of these experiences in my life, all of these skills and talents in my life to be more of service and more in devotion to the world than ever before? And this could be very beneficial to also think about in terms of helping people who don't normally get this kind of help, who don't normally have access to you, or who need more compassion than the world typically gives. So that's a really great question to ask. I hope that this was helpful for you, Aries. If it resonates, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends so more people can find my channel, and I hope you have a great one. Bye. All right, up next we have Taurus Rising and Sun. So for you guys, you are having on March 1st, a Venus conjunct Jupiter transit in your 12th house. On this day, it would be really beneficial for you guys to make sure that you make some time out for yourself and your spiritual practice. This could look like meditating, doing dream journaling, especially. That's a really good one. Or pretty much anything that will give you time alone with your own energy and with God. And I do feel like during this period of time, you could get some really cool downloads, some healing, some insights and support that maybe you've been feeling like you've been needing for a while. This could look like a little miracle happening or something, some random act of kindness coming your way. And I just think that you'll feel more connected to your guides and more hopeful and supported than before. So let's go ahead and jump into this full moon, which is happening in the sign of Virgo at 16 degrees, which for you is falling in your 5th house. That means the sun is opposite it in your 11th house. So you guys are going through a phase right now where you might feel a little bit more social, or you have at least more presence of friends in your life, or more of an emphasis on your community and relationships. With the full moon being in Virgo in the 5th, it can ask you to look a little bit more into how you have been maybe managing your money, and also like how this relates to what brings you more joy and pleasure in your life. I just pulled the Hierophant and the High Priestess card. So I feel like this very much ties in the energy of the Venus-Jupiter conjunction happening in your 12th house with the High Priestess card. That's definitely a lot about you connecting with your own intuition, imagination, dreamlands, spirit world to know kind of the path ahead for you. And then the Hierophant card is typically about doing things by the book or by the tradition. And this has Taurus energy on it as well. So I think that many of you guys might feel, I mean, that's your energy. You are a Taurus. But you might be feeling right now like you are planning things for the future. And you can be getting insights with the High Priestess card around how to do that in the best possible way. And for some of you, that could look like doing things traditionally or by the book, or not skipping any steps. That's more of the energy I'm getting. Not so much that it has to follow a traditional plan, but just that it has to have some sort of kind of plan in general where you're not just like rushing into something, but having all of the steps laid out in front of you. And I think the information coming to you on March 1st can kind of show you the destination and maybe part of the steps to get there. And the full moon in Virgo in your 5th house can show you how to go about those steps in a more creative way. And I think there's something around money here, though, where I'm trying to figure out, because this full moon is happening in your 5th, but it's squaring Mars in your 2nd house. So there's something related to needing to make a change to your finances or your financial approach or how you're managing your money. Like maybe you have a current plan right now, but it's actually not going to gain you enough money, or maybe you need to make certain changes so that you can have more, basically, or you can manage it more properly. So let me just see, Spirit, do you have any cards around that in particular? This is a full moon in your 5th, so this could affect your children as well. So maybe there could be like an unexpected expense related to your children. The 4 of Pentacles, the 10 of Cups, and the Page of Pentacles. Yeah, definitely I feel like there is some message here around not being impulsive with your spending. There is... The full moon, as I mentioned, will make it obvious how our past actions have led us to a certain place. So if you've been kind of spending money on things that bring you like more pleasure and joy in the moment, but don't necessarily help plan for your long-term success, I think you'll start to be feeling a little bit more pressure around needing to make a change in that respect and be more careful with your finances. It doesn't have to be finances. It could be any type of resource of yours, like a house that you're living in or things that you own. It doesn't just have to be your money in particular, but I'm seeing that there has been maybe a mismanagement of resources that you could kind of tighten up. With the 10 of Cups and the Page of Pentacles, I think the separate message here is that there is a way to make money in a more joyful fashion, and that might become clear to you during this full moon as well, where you can have some kind of idea come through around what changes you need to make more money in a way that aligns better with your heart and soul. So maybe that means working less and making more. Maybe that means changing the types of marketing that you do or the types of activities that you do. Maybe you can become more efficient at work so that You have more time for your family and your loved ones, your children, but there's a need to have more flexibility and creativity in your life because this full moon is making a trine to Uranus in your first house. So you guys are not meant to just have like a super structured routine and go about it day after day, because that's kind of like the typical Taurus energy. It does tend to, there is creativity that you guys have because you're a Venus ruled sign, but there does tend to be a lot more kind of stability and consistency. And I feel like that's how you've been operating with this Hierophant card. You are good at that. This is your energy. You're good at creating a plan and following the plan and just making sure that you take it one step at a time and not skip any steps. Like, you're already doing that, but I think that you're missing some kind of creative, soulful element to it. You are, or there's more of an opportunity there. I don't know if it's missing per se, but there's more of an opportunity to expand what feels good or what feels right. Even if for some of you that means working less, or somehow making a plan that gives you more time for joy, or if the plan itself involves more creativity and joy. But with that, again, with that trine to Uranus in the first house, it's like, I need freedom, I need flexibility, I need spontaneity, I need the ability to be creative and fun and playful and eccentric and move my life forward, but in a way that feels like super soulful. And I think that's the energy that you guys are moving into. You are beginning a new 2.5-year cycle also at the time of this full moon, with Saturn moving into Pisces in your 11th house. So this can bring about a need to become more responsible within the area of relationships, particularly community relationships. So this could mean if you are older, for example, you could take on more of, not a parental, but like a mentor kind of role for people in your community. If you are younger, this might look like needing to establish a group of friends in a new city, or needing to get to know people in a different way. I just pulled the 10 of Pentacles. I think for many of you, you need to be building some kind of financial success, or some kind of foundation, or some kind of physical entity or relationships in a community. So this could look like starting a business, like starting a physical space, or growing something in the community that you've never done before. And I pulled the self-love card. So this, I think, is more of an advice card talking about the journey towards creating these 10 of Pentacles, creating towards this foundation and wealth and lasting relationships. It's, I think, a lot about having values and self-worth and self-love that will attract the right kinds of opportunities and relationships to you. So don't try to kind of rush forward to create this really strong and long-lasting foundation with just anybody. I think you need to feel it in your heart and in your soul that it's the right relationship, that it's the right business, that it's the right community, that it's the right idea, that it's the right time. There needs to be this sort of kind of clicking energy or a flow that can come through, that it's like you still need to work every single day at it, but you have to work every single day at the right things. Otherwise, it won't last the test of time. And so I feel that this self-love card is saying to just be mindful that with Saturn, we are planning in the long haul, in the long term, and seeing the vision of what we're trying to create for many years to come, and not making any impulsive decisions, not rushing the process, and not cutting any corners, which again, I don't think that you tend to do, but and maybe at times you will be more likely to settle if you are feeling like, well, it's not here yet. It's supposed to take some time, so don't settle. Keep that long-term vision for what it is that you are desiring, and you will see it happen, even if it's coming in slowly, even if it's trickling and not exactly what you expect at first. It will manifest over time. So that is what I'm saying for you, Taurus. If that resonates, please let me know by liking and commenting down below how it resonates with you. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends so more people can find my channel, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Gemini Rising and Sun. So for you guys on March 1st, you are having Venus conjunct Jupiter in Aries in your 11th house of friendship. So this could be a really good time for you guys to meet new people, meet new connections, especially people that can help you move up in the world. So this is always like our benefactors, people that can kind of give us a leg up by maybe giving us a letter of recommendation or by hooking us up with an important person in their network. And so just look out for how you can be of service to people, how you can say yes to social situations, and basically expand your connections, because that's a time when you're going to get the most blessings and abundance out of those dynamics in terms of emotional feelings and also like what you can make out of it in other ways. I just think you'll feel a lot more supported and like excited about your friendships during that time. All right, let's talk about the full moon in Virgo. This is happening on March 7th, and this is happening in your 4th house. That means the sun is opposite it in Pisces in your 10th. So you are in a current phase where you are focused on career and leadership development. But with a full moon in the 4th house, it's asking you to go a little bit more internal. And I've been saying to most people that this full moon is a lot about getting our life in order. And when I see a full moon in the 4th house, there can be consequences of an emotional nature or of a physical nature within the home or within family dynamics, where you will start to see how maybe disorder has contributed to certain breakdowns or emotional imbalances, or how your past organization and your past efforts have led you to certain breakthroughs or certain emotional stability within yourself. This is squaring Mars in the 1st, so I do think that you guys are being asked to make certain adjustments to your energy. I just pulled the Devil card, to the way that you're expending your energy in particular. And Mars moving through your 1st house is a lot about energy management, focus management. Where do I want to put my time? What actions do I want to do each day? And with this Devil card coming out, which is Saturn energy or Capricorn energy, it's really asking you to create more of a structure to your life. I think that many of you guys have been in a stage of, just like Mars and Gemini in general, just a lot of kind of exploration, dabbling, and it doesn't necessarily suit like very focused kind of structured work. And I think you guys are going to be moving out of that stage with this full moon in Virgo, where you are realizing how to become more focused and structured to accomplish certain goals for yourself. And it means setting hard and fast deadlines. It means creating a little bit of discomfort for yourself, you know, where it's like, all right, if I want this thing in my life, if I'm motivated for this thing, I have to create all these little steps and get them done by a certain time in my life in order to achieve that bigger goal. And so it's putting that pressure on yourself to manage your time better. And I just pulled the Two of Pentacles, the Six of Cups, and the King of Swords. The Two of Pentacles is a lot about managing different priorities. So many of you guys might have multiple jobs. Mars, again, it being in Gemini, is going to just inherently make you have a propensity to have multiple things that you're juggling at once. That's why I said it's a lot around dabbling and exploration. So you guys might have picked up like a number of different responsibilities since Mars has been in your sign for the last many months. So I think that you guys are trying to create a little bit more of a solid foundation. This Two of Pentacles is Jupiter and Capricorn energy. So it is about building along an existing structure, managing things like you would a business, or managing like you would as a professional. And so if there are adjustments that you need to make to your behavior, or even the way that you kind of show up in terms of leadership or confidence over your own life, I really see that you guys are needing to do that because you have so many plates spinning. It's just the things won't get done properly if you're not managing your time properly. And that could look like being very clear around how you are also restricting yourself by bad habits. So this could be like scrolling on your phone in the morning, which I'm guilty of, or other activities that are just wasting your time and depleting your energy. And it's also about like how you might be limiting yourself mentally, where if you're lacking confidence or you're not feeling like you're strong enough or doing well enough, this is really a time for you to make certain adjustments in your day-to-day life in a practical way that will actually help you build that confidence in yourself. I pulled the Six of Cups and Knight of Swords. The thing is, I pulled these yesterday, so I'm gonna like reshuffle because the Two of Pentacles felt like it was for you, but these cards will come out again if they're for you. Let me see if there are any other ones. You guys have this full moon trining Uranus in the 12th, so I guess in some ways the Six of Cups would make sense, where you're letting go of the past and you're liberating from the past. So I think for some of you guys, you might get really stuck in kind of self-sabotaging cycles, distractibility cycles, or repeating just similar behaviors from the past that weren't really getting you to where you wanted to go. And the Three of Swords and the Death card. What is going on today? So I feel like you guys are putting an end to the difficult situations of the past that left you feeling like you were continuously hurting yourself. And this could have been you focusing on situations in the past that happened that made you really sad, that made you feel like you weren't good enough. And then because of that, you either continued certain behavior that kind of kept that emotion recirculating through you. And we can do that because oftentimes we get used to things feeling or being a certain way, and it becomes our emotional baseline. And I feel like there are things that you guys need to adjust within your emotional baseline, your habitual nature, how you show up and take care of yourself within the home every day, that was kind of, again, recirculating past negative experiences and causing more discomfort within yourself. It's time to transform that with the Scorpio death energy. And the Three of Swords has Saturn and Libra energy. So it's about doing disciplined action to create more of a balance in your life, and a focus not only on relationships, but also on how you can take care of yourself equally as you've taken care of others. So you guys also have Saturn moving into Pisces in your 10th house. So you are moving into a new 2.5-year cycle where you are doubling down on your efforts within your workplace. And this could look like you guys taking on more responsibility and becoming more of a leader. This could look like things slowing down in your career and having certain challenges or hardships that you have to overcome and becoming stronger because of that. And essentially, this is asking you to mature in your area of career, responsibility, future goals, and objectives. So it's asking you, most importantly, to think about long-term consequences of things, to not just think about, oh, what's my 3-year plan, but what's my 10-year plan? Where is this actually leading me? This current action, this current desire that I have, where is this leading me in terms of my big picture goals, my big picture desires, the way I'm meant to make an impact on the world? How does this affect my reputation as an individual? And it's really asking you to look at all of your behavior and how you're showing up as a leader versus how you're showing up as maybe a follower, and maybe not a follower, but like not in your full strength and essence. So I'm going to do a whole separate video on that, but let me just pull one more card for you guys in the Wild Feminine deck. Okay, I got the Medusa, Sacred Rage, and Divine Care. So you guys have been having Mars moving through your sign for so long. You've been in a larger process of integrating and understanding the masculine energy, and especially through Sacred Rage. So rage is one way that we get in tune with our boundaries, and that we understand what it is that we truly need and how to protect ourselves, which is all of the masculine energy. So it is a tool, a very essential and sacred tool that I think that you guys have been on a longer journey of learning, and you're continuing to learn how to structure your life and create boundaries within yourself and your relationship within yourself. So anything that's been making you upset about your own behavior or about your own life, like where can you actually ask yourself to put up boundaries in that way to protect yourself from having a result or an outcome or an emotion that you're not enjoying. If you are scrolling on the phone in the morning and it's leaving you feeling depleted and you're getting started on work late, or you don't have time to exercise or do something meaningful, then it can create that feeling of discomfort, disappointment, or even anger at oneself. And that is an important indicator of a boundary needing to be set, of maybe having no phone time in the morning. The divine care, I think, has a lot to do with feminine energy, self-care, and nourishment. So I'm really saying that you guys are having some sort of balancing between these two. And it's not just about creating that masculine and structure and discipline, but it's also about caring for yourself emotionally, attending to your needs so that you can feel really supported as you're taking action towards your goals. So that is what I'm seeing, guys. I hope that you enjoyed this. If so, please comment down below, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with your friends, and have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Cancer and Cancer Rising. So before we jump into this full moon in Virgo, I wanted to kind of talk about the March 1st transit where Venus is conjunct Jupiter. It's going to be in Aries in your 10th house. And Venus conjunct Jupiter is one of the best kind of transits that we can have. It's bringing the two benefics together. It's bringing us confidence, healing, worthiness, assertiveness, and this is coming through the area of your career. So you guys might find that you have some kind of new career opportunity, especially if this is hitting any of your personal planets, which I did look this up at the beginning of the video, but I can't remember now. It is at 12 degrees of Aries. So if you guys have anything plus or minus 12 degrees of Aries, or in any of the fire signs, you'll really start to notice that these blessings just kind of drop in your lap, and you will have opportunities to not only connect with maybe your future vision and goals and what you desire, but also people who can help get you there, and maybe even financial opportunities or growth opportunities, expansive opportunities in your career. It's going to vary for people, again, depending on what planets you have in your 10th, but this is a really beautiful energy regardless for all Cancer risings. So, and as I said, that I pulled the Wheel of Fortune, the Empress, and the Sun. So you guys are definitely having some kind of change of fate within your career. The Wheel of Fortune is about things turning in your favor finally. And the Empress and the Sun are cards of abundance, of clarity, of feeling like all of your needs are taken care of, and you can trust that the universe is going to have your back. So it's, again, just a really abundant state of being. So let's talk now about the full moon in Virgo, which is happening at 16 degrees of Virgo in your 3rd house. That means the sun right now is opposite the moon in your 9th house. So there's a larger focus recently on travel, on your beliefs, on also like just creating a sense of faith and optimism in life, maybe learning something new, teaching. That tends to be an area of personal growth. So whenever I have the sun through my 9th house, I notice that I am more focused on how I'm growing as an individual. Your moon opposite it in Virgo is, again, where this full moon is taking place. And it is typically, full moon are around culminations, realizations, things coming to fruition. So being in the sign of Virgo, there's a very practical way that our routines, our way of taking care of ourselves, our discipline, our health also, like how we've managed our health, how we manage our body, how that is affecting your mindset, how that's affecting also how busy you might feel, how stressed you might feel, or scattered. So there can be like a feeling of restlessness if you're not managing those areas of your life properly. Or even if you are, there can still be restlessness. So it just makes it even more important to have some sense of structure. But you guys might be noticing if you have really had some kind of faulty routines or some issues in regards to your self-care, your responsibilities, you might notice that your mindset is a little bit off whack, or that you have a little bit more anxiety. And this is true also because it's making a square to Mars in the 12th. So I really feel like you guys, sometimes Mars in the 12th can feel also quite restless, like I have to be super busy, I have to get so much done, or you can just have a general like feeling of anxiety and like things, I don't know, it's just the 12th house, whenever Mercury is there, Mars is there, we tend to have a little bit more like internal activity that's somehow out of our awareness that can cause anxiety. So that might just be a general theme right now, where the anxiety is pointing you towards where you have had breakdowns of your self-care, of your routine, of your work and responsibility, and where things are not managed properly. And it's asking you to put an end or a stop to that way of behaving, that way of thinking also, that can perpetuate that cycle. And let me just pull a card on that. I just got the Two of Swords. Yeah, I think many of you guys, maybe you have been experiencing more kind of indecision. This is like I'm getting the sense of like spinning your wheels, ruminating, being restless, going here, going there, and not making like a lot of progress in your life, like not really setting like a strong foundation and building on it. And I think that this Venus conjunct Jupiter that's happening on the 1st in your 10th house will help you lay more of that foundation, will help you get a little bit clearer about how you can create this lasting stability for yourself and actually make some real progress for yourself. This full moon is also making a trine to Uranus in your 11th house. So you guys definitely have some sort of liberation, breakthrough, freedom, connection, just like a better feeling, and maybe even possible changes to the area of your community, to your friend groups. And this could really help you. I just pulled the Knight of Wands. Oh my gosh, and the Knight of Swords. So I really feel like these people that are coming into your life are going to inspire you to act quickly and to create something for yourself where you may have been kind of, again, spinning your wheels. This is not necessarily like really strong earth energy though, so I do wonder if this is going to have like a lasting foundation. But this is like, let's go, let's stop like questioning, like let's get things moving. And I really feel like people in your community are going to inspire you to help do that. So, oh, I just pulled a Tower card. I need to clarify that. Can I clarify the Tower for Cancer? The Queen of Wands, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Pentacles card. So yeah, I really feel like the Tower card is good. It's saying you're finally shaking up out of this rut that you guys have been in. I really feel like you've been in a career rut or something of that nature where you haven't been taking the necessary actions and you're needing radical change. And as I mentioned, I see you moving really swiftly with inspiration, quickly towards a certain goal. But I actually, and especially full moon in the 3rd house, it's like a very, let's go, like that's that restless energy. But you're directing it towards something now. You're becoming much more focused now. And this Tower card has Mars energy. It's about drive, ambition, knowing exactly where we want to go. And I really feel like, even though I didn't say, I wasn't sure about the foundation because it's so fast, after the Tower card as a clarifier, we have the Ace of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles, and Queen of Wands. So that makes me feel like you guys are starting to gain clarity of how to take action for something that can last or that can become stable. So something like real, something tangible, something that will help you grow into this Queen of Wands where you are very confident and you are very successful. So if there are opportunities that come through for you, definitely act on it this week. Definitely use your community or people that are like-minded or have similar interests as you as inspiration, because they could give you really great ideas or breakthroughs to help move you forward. And it just feels like all of a sudden things are becoming a little bit clearer, or even if they're not becoming clear, I think they are becoming clear because it is a full moon in your 3rd house. But even if they're not, I see you guys taking action anyway. Like even if you don't have every single thing lined up, I see you moving forward and becoming a lot more confident and sure of yourself. We have Saturn moving into Pisces on this day, which is in your 9th house. This is going to begin a new 2.5-year cycle. I'm going to do a whole other video about this because it deserves its own video. But this is beginning a new 2.5-year cycle in the area of self-development and self-belief. So kind of where the sun is right now, where it's drawing attention and focus, is where you're going to feel a little bit more pressure being put on you to mature and to grow. And many of you guys would actually benefit by going back to school or by having some kind of teacher or mentor, or by you becoming that teacher. If you guys have always wanted to publish a book, this is like getting your knowledge out there, disseminating your wisdom with the world or for the world, and then also taking that in from other people. It's a lot about learning, exploring, adventuring, but doing so in a really mature and thoughtful and decisive way, where it's going to not just be something enjoyable, but it's going to lead you to a specific long-term destination that can create something for the world, impact people around you, and create finances for yourself. So it's a lot about long-term visioning, thinking about the success that you want in your life and how you need to change or develop or learn more or teach more to become somebody that can achieve that level of success. And I have the Ace of Swords for that. So many of you guys might find that you are kind of dabbling with lots of different ideas and learning and exploring different philosophies in a more serious way about life in general. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Cancer. I hope that resonates. If it does, please don't forget to like and comment down below about how it relates to your life. That always helps me. Also, subscribe and share with your friends if you find that they like astrology and if you think that this would help them. And I hope you guys have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo Rising and Sun. So before we jump into this full moon in Virgo, I wanted to mention that on March 1st, we have Venus making a conjunction with Jupiter, which, if you know anything about these planets, they are the two most beneficial and kind and loving planets in astrology. So having them come together in the sky is always a really exciting experience. And for you guys, it's in the 9th house. So many of you guys, I think, will start to reconnect more with your vision, your hope, your optimism, your sense of trust. And I think in many senses, you guys might even feel like you have grown as a person, have become wiser, have become just better in terms of what you want in life. And I think you're going to be feeling like things are going to work out, like things are going to work out in my favor. I'm starting to see the light come over the horizon, and I see how maybe all of this fit into a bigger plan, and the struggles and the pain, the things that I've gone through have been so worth it, leading me here to this moment in time. And so I'm excited for you guys to experience that, because I think that Leo Risings can use that right now. Okay, full moon in Virgo is happening on March 7th, so a few days later, and it's at 16 degrees. This is happening in your 2nd house, and this might also be related to why you were having more hope, more faith, more optimism, because the full moon in the 2nd house can indicate some kind of financial breakthrough, some kind of culmination in the area of our resources and of our finances and our confidence as well. So we start to feel like we're capable, we got this, we're bringing something to the table. We can get maybe a new house, a new car, more pay, or something that can line us up in life for more security and, more prosperity. So I pulled the Justice, the Ace of Wands, and the Hermit card. So I definitely feel like with the Justice and the Ace of Wands, there is some kind of redistribution of energy where you guys have maybe put a lot of effort into something that hasn't necessarily given itself back to you. Or this could be relationships, this could be a dynamic, a career. And with the Ace of Wands next to it, it's like revitalizing that thing and bringing it back to life. So what you thought was dead, what you thought wasn't sustaining you or wasn't giving you what you deserved, wasn't creating equal abundance, that energy is turning all of the lights back on and things are running again. Things are going to be moving again. So this could be, again, something financial because this is a full moon in the 2nd house, or something resource oriented. With the Hermit card, I feel like you guys have done, like you've had that kind of dark night of the soul. You've had that inner work. You've gone and looked at these aspects of yourself. The sun right now is in your 8th house, and it's called you towards those shadows. It's called you to look at that part of yourself. And so you've done this kind of rebirth and regeneration of yourself. You've done that soul searching. You've asked yourself why you haven't gotten what you wanted, or why things haven't worked out, or what you need to do to change to become that person. And with this full moon in the 2nd, I feel like you are realizing you're having something realize in your life. You're having something actualize regarding the inner work that you've been doing. So it's like, oh, that's what I've been missing. Let me just do that, and I can start to have more of what I want in the physical world. This is making a square to Mars in the 11th, so it might cause some sort of disruption in your community and your friendships in order to create this sense of like physical abundance. So you might have to actually make changes to your actions in regards to who you associate yourself with, who you surround yourself with, the kinds of things that you talk about and think about with your community, the ways that you're trying to go out and make connections and network and make an impact, or even sometimes your long-term goals. Maybe those need to slightly adjust a little bit because it needs to suit this new thing that's coming through your finances. And maybe it's not a new thing, but maybe it's, again, some kind of reward that you're finally getting from past work. And there's still some adjustments that need to be made in your relationship with your friends or your community of some sort. I pulled the protection card and the unknown. So I feel like many of you guys are still in a transition of the unknown. We're all experiencing that to some extent with this full moon being in a trine to Uranus. It's in your 10th house. So I think many of you guys might still have some kind of unexpected twists and turns within your career or your long-term goals. You might still feel like you have been kind of navigating that darkness. That's what I'm seeing with the Hermit card. And maybe some of you are still somewhat in that, and it's not, and this full moon hasn't completely taken you out of that. But I think that it'll depend. It'll vary where you're at. Maybe that was more so the last couple weeks, and this full moon gives you that tangible thing to hold on to because it is in the 2nd house, and you're like, okay, this is where I'm going now, I know. Or maybe some of you guys have a little bit of that shadowiness still, and you're not really sure exactly how everything's going to play out. And that unknown card is telling you that you are okay and protected with this card here as well, in that state of transition, in that state of not knowing. So you don't have to worry so much. And sometimes with the sun in the 8th house, it does bring up those fears. It does bring up those shadows where we do worry that we're not safe and we're not protected. But the full moon, the 2nd, is trying to give you some semblance of something to hold on to tangible into your life so that you realize that things are improving and that things are kind of going in the way that you want them to, even if you don't have all the answers yet. So that's really what I'm seeing here. We also have Saturn moving into Pisces on this day, which is going to start a new 2.5-year cycle for you. Saturn moving into your 8th house is very likely to bring up all of those fears to the surface so that you can truly work through them. So if you have had fears around intimacy, vulnerability, if you've had fears of the past kind of repeating itself, or if you've had certain traumas embed themselves into you and it's prevented you from moving forward in life and progressing and maturing and taking those next steps, taking those next risks, Saturn is coming in here to slow you down and have you actually sit with those aspects of yourself so that you can move on and mature to the next level of your life. Because let's say, for example, that you have a deep fear around rejection. Maybe you'll never actually propose to your partner, or maybe you'll never actually take emotional risks around intimacy in your relationship because of that fear of rejection from the past that hasn't been fully worked through. And so you don't actually mature and keep moving through the phases of life. And so Saturn moving through the 8th is going to bring you to those depths so that you can analyze the ways in which you have felt burnt out, disappointed, sad, all the fears and the traumas, all those things. It's going to help you work with that one-on-one, bit by bit in our life until you can get to the other side where it doesn't feel like it's holding you back. It doesn't feel like it's restricting you. And I see that with the 5 of Cups and 10 of Swords, the things that have presented certain disappointments in your life, that you felt defeated, that you felt like you've had a lack mentality or focused too much on those things that could go wrong or that have gone wrong, it's putting a full end to them with the 10 of Swords. It's completely stopping that so that you never have to relive those past pains again. It does mean that this is going to be maybe a little bit more of an intense journey for you guys, but because you are doing this work for the next 2.5 years, you will be a completely changed person. You will be light. You'll be free. You will have new ideas, new inspiration, things come to you that you can make decisions on. And you're not going to be so stuck in the past in an emotional level in some capacity. We all have some capacity of being emotionally stuck in the past, and you are clearing that over the next 2.5 years. I'm going to do a whole separate video on that if I didn't already mention. So definitely stay tuned for that. And thank you guys so much for listening to this video. If you enjoyed it, please let me know by liking, commenting down below. I love to read your comments and see how it relates to the astrology. And if you think anyone else would enjoy this, don't forget to subscribe and share it with them so that more people can find my channel. Thanks, guys. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo Sun and Rising. So before we jump into the full moon in your sign, we're going to be talking about the March 1st conjunction between Jupiter and Venus, which is happening in Aries in your 8th house. So many of you guys might have been going through some cycles of trying to learn more about your shadow sides. Why am I behaving this way? Why do I have these really intense fears? Why am I having trouble opening up or trusting the world and trusting life? Why do I have trouble being supported or having needs? Those are all really common things with the 8th house. And it can bring up also issues in regards to finances and worthiness and how we share our resources with our partners and how we feel abundance or lack or fear and scarcity. And so with Venus conjunct Jupiter on March 1st in your 8th house, it is going to help alleviate some of those things that have maybe come up for you along the journey of life. So Venus and Jupiter are great for healing. They are great for bringing in the right relationships, the right mentors, the right ideas, the right things that can kind of kick us off in that area of our life so that we can have more of like a leap forward. So if you've been kind of stuck in some type of energy, if you've been struggling with one specific kind of fear or issue, you might notice that a lot of that like breaks free in some instance or has some kind of progress that feels like it is just more advancement that you've made in weeks or in months. And with the Hierophant and 10 of Pentacles, I think for many of you guys, this could have to do with your way of creating finances for yourself. With this Taurus card, the Hierophant is a Taurus card. So this could bring in some kind of lasting foundation in your money. With the 10 of Pentacles being a card that can last throughout generations, you guys might have some type of idea that can create more wealth for you that is sustainable, that is slow and consistent, a slow burn, which is really, really good. So that Venus-Jupiter conjunction can show you maybe where to make certain investments. So this could look like investing in another business or some type of risky asset like a home or the stock market. There is something where I feel like you guys are going to have the potential to move forward in a huge way financially. And I also think it's going to help you, of course, in the whole mental, emotional state, which will give you the confidence to take those risks and to take those chances that you might have been too fearful of doing in the past. So now let's talk about the Virgo full moon, which is happening on March 7th. It's happening at 16 degrees. So if you have any planets or the ascendant or something important at 16 degrees of Virgo, plus or minus a few degrees, or in any of the earth signs, you'll start to notice that this really impacts you in a beautiful way. This is a full moon in your first house, which means the sun is in your 7th, which means that relationships are a greater focus for you right now. You are meant to be understanding your partner. You're meant to be working with others, collaborating, doing one-on-one things. There's just a general focus in your life on other people. But with the full moon in your first house, it's a time to bring that energy back to you, of course, and it's squaring Mars in the 10th. So it is saying that we all are needing to make some important foundational changes in our life right now. Virgo energy is a lot around how we have our routines, our structure, our discipline, how we take care of our health, how we handle our responsibilities. And with Saturn moving also into a new house, into a new sign, we're really asking ourselves like where we need to adjust and shift our focus in order to move through this next chapter of maturity with ease, essentially. And for many of you guys, there are some changes that you might need to make to your long-term plans, to your vision for yourself and your life in order to create the kind of abundance that you're looking for in your career. I also think that there could be a focus as well on your relationships because Saturn is moving into your 7th house on this day, and it will remain in there for the next 2.5 years. So it is asking you to look very maturely at how you've been processing emotions, how you've been dealing with things within relationships, what you've been desiring in partners, if that matches your long-term goals. Is that really getting you to where you want to go? Is that really who you see yourself with long-term? Is that really how you want to be in relationship with somebody 5, 10, 20 years from now? So Saturn is asking us to think about how our decisions now really compound and they create our long-term effects in life. And when it's moving into your 7th, it's really asking you to not only look at your emotional nature, because it's in Pisces, but it's also looking at your emotional nature within relationships. And there may be some areas where that can have more maturation, have more work and effort and consistency put to that area of your life to become a better person in relationship with others or in your one-on-one work with others. Any kind of relationship. It's not just a partnership. But this full moon in your first house might also draw your attention to the ways in which you can become more evolved as a soul. And I pulled the World card, which has Saturn energy to it already. So this is like a completion of a cycle and a start of a new one. So some of you guys may find that you have just greater levels of awareness and understanding of yourself around where you want to go long term. And you will have to adjust your behavior to get there, because this is making a square to Mars in the 10th. So I think that you guys are having some career adjustments where you're like, okay, if I truly want to be on the track to, for example, have a family and buy a house and maybe move countries or whatever your long-term goal is, if I really want to be on that track to do that in the next 10 years or 5 years, what do I need to do today to actually make that happen? My current behavior isn't going to get me there. I actually am seeing that there needs to be real adjustments, and adjustments also on an identity level. And sometimes we have this kind of like full awakening moment where we're like, oh, this is who I am. This is great. You know, I'm glad for what I've accomplished, but this isn't going to get me to point B. What got me to point A won't get me to point B. So what do I need to see in myself, in my identity, and adjust in my behavior to reflect that new route to point B? And this is making a trine to Uranus in the 9th. So I do think that many of you guys are going to need to like have a complete adjustment of belief systems, of the way of viewing yourself, what you feel like is possible for you. You're going to need to have a new and more innovative way of seeing yourself in your life to actually get you there. It's not an identity crisis, but it's an identity adjustment. And with this authenticity card, I love this, because with this trine in Uranus, it is asking you to bring out what makes you special, what makes you unique, what makes you authentically you in this process. So it's not only understanding very clearly, like, okay, what are my long-term goals? Is this authentic to me? Yes or no? How do I go about getting them? But also, maybe the things that you've been doing currently are not as authentic as they could be. There could be things that that are put onto you by society, or that feel like shoulds, or that just ultimately won't get you to those big dreams. There may be the things that you're just doing right now because they feel like traditionally right in some capacity, but they're not building you towards your unique vision and your unique identity. So authenticity, being very clear about what you believe in, what you want to manifest, and how, and like changing your life to reflect that, your identity to reflect those beliefs, is going to be super important. And it may, in many instances, go against the grain of tradition, because this is squaring Mars in the 10th. It may go against what people tell you to do. It may go against what authorities have in society and banks and your parents have like traditionally set up for you. I feel like you guys might need to like break out of that a little bit and see what you want in your own life for yourself. Okay, so any other cards to describe this Virgo full moon? I feel like this has been kind of esoteric. It's hard to describe a full moon in the first house because so much in your life can change. The Six of Wands, the Knight of Cups, and the Four of Pentacles. So I do think that many of you guys are becoming more successful with the Six of Wands, maybe getting more notoriety during this full moon, just because it's in your first house. You have greater opportunities for visibility and success in general when this does happen. And I feel like that could bring a potential for some type of growth. So that could mean like financial growth, career growth. But what this is saying is to use those opportunities in a very controlled and mindful way with the Four of Pentacles and Knight of Cups. I think that you guys are meant to be following your heart, your creativity, your intuition. But with the Four of Pentacles next to it, it's also asking you to do so with some sort of reservation or long-term, like conservative mindset with it. And I don't mean conservative like politically or anything, but it's like how how are we being astute and wise in our decision making and using our like emotions and intuition and feelings to create something like long-term successful. And this is very much Saturn and Pisces energy. Like that's what's happening today, is that transition from Saturn into Pisces. So it's like, what's our long-term vision and goal? How can we contribute to society? How can we make safe, sure bets while also listening to our emotions, intuitions, and feelings? So those things are so fleeting that we don't want to just be like, oh, I have a different feeling, so I'm going to go on a different path today. But it's a lot about like, okay, I've consistently have this come up in my intuition. It's in my field. It's in my aura. I'm feeling this. I need to make a change. And where is this going to take me? How can I do this sustainably? How can I make a change in a way that's maybe not super radical or super fast, but in a way that makes sense with my life and is safe and is like getting me towards my destination. So it's a lot about listening to our gut, but thinking also about that long-term success and doing things that breaks tradition, but also that somewhat follows like the limitations of life, if that makes sense. Like, how can we be conservative while also breaking tradition? It's like the duality of both, the nuance of doing both. I really feel like that you guys are learning that right now. We're all learning that right now, but especially for you guys, because the full moon is in your first house. So this is particularly impacting you. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Virgo. I hope that resonates. And if it does, let me know by commenting down below and giving me a thumbs up. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and share with your friends so more people can see my channel. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra Rising and Sun. So we're going to talk about the Virgo full moon. But before we jump in, I did want to mention that on March 1st, we have Venus conjunct Jupiter, which is happening in your 7th house in Aries. So this is one of the best transits because we have the two most benefic planets coming together, and they are basically giving us an opportunity for wisdom, growth, lessons, feelings of abundance, opportunities, just feeling overall happy and warmth. And this is coming in your area of relationships. So you guys are definitely going to get this kind of kick and jumpstart in your relationships. If there has been blockages or issues in that area of your life, I really see that smoothing over on this day, feeling a lot better. Maybe new opportunities to work with people can come in, and you guys will just notice that your relationship patterns start to improve a lot. As I said that, I pulled the Two of Cups and the High Priestess. So some of you guys might feel like you're finding your soulmate, or might feel like you are finding amazing friendships and people that you can connect with on a spiritual level. But there is this like, I'm seeing your soul for who you are, and you're seeing my soul for who I am. So even if you're in an existing relationship, I really feel like you guys are reflecting back the other person, their internal world. And it's just going to be the most beautiful kind of emotionally supportive experience that you might experience this year, which is really beautiful. Okay, let's talk about the full moon in Virgo, which is happening on March 7th at 16 degrees of Virgo in your 12th house. That means the sun is opposite it in your 6th house. So definitely a huge focus on your work right now and on your routine and your responsibilities, how you're taking care of your health. That is where the sun puts our energy and focus. But a full moon in the 12th is usually around having some kind of adjustments, change, spiritual awakening, sometimes releasing some things in the past, letting things go. And full moons are all about that culmination. So we will tend to see if we have been diligent in our lives, especially concerning Virgoan matters. So concerning our health, concerning our work, routine, responsibilities. If we've been really having good, if we've been having strong care, I can't think of the word. If we're having good care or being responsible and dutiful over our lives, we will have good results. And especially with the 12th house, where we can have sometimes like, there's usually a lot of karma wrapped up in the 12th house, whether that be good or bad. And so you guys might notice that things kind of come to fruition, and you will start to see where things are working well and where things are not working well. And this will be especially true when it comes to when you spend time alone, for example. I think you'll be very aware of like, oh, this doesn't feel good. You know, like now that the dust has settled and I've had some time to take a step back and like look at my life and sit with my own energy, like maybe you've had a lot of activity going on, for example, and you're finally having a chance for the dust to settle. It's like you'll finally see where, okay, I can't like live like this anymore. I have to set this boundary. I need to have more control over this aspect of my life. I need to be more diligent with this, or ease up with this, have more flow with this. And it's going to look different for everybody. But I think many of you guys need that space alone in order to check in and realize like how your life maintenance is going. It's like taking your car to the shop, and you wouldn't want somebody super distracted, super busy doing 10 things at once, trying to do car maintenance on your brakes, for example. And this is very important too, like how you take care of yourself, your soul, manage your energy, your time, your resources. All of those things are happening right now, even on a subconscious level. And you want to be like focused on that. You want to give that your time and energy. This is also making a square to Mars in the 9th. So I do think that you guys... Okay, I pulled the 3 of Cups. I do think that you guys might need to make some adjustments to your beliefs about things. So maybe you do need to make some practical changes to your life. Yeah, as I said that, I pulled the Hangman and the King of Swords. You guys need to change your perspective on something. Absolutely. Because I feel like there has been a way that you've been maintaining your life. And I think that you might have a fear or a worry that if I change it, this thing will happen. Or if I do things this way, then that means this about me. And it just feels like very restrictive and actually not true. And with the 3 of Cups, this could be related to relationships, to connections with people, celebrations, like the joyful things in life. Like, oh, if I take that away, if I tell people no, if I cancel plans, like then people aren't going to invite me out, or then that means this about me. And I feel like it doesn't have to be about that, but I think for many of you it could be about emotions, about relationships. And I think you guys are going to have to start seeing how you prioritize that area of your life. Maybe some of you need to prioritize it more, and maybe some of you need to prioritize it less, and kind of just make adjustments. But the adjustments primarily need to be in the way that you perceive the situation or what you believe about the situation. Because I think you're falsely identifying with certain beliefs that are actually just not true. And they could be bringing up certain like fears or limitations within you, especially because this full moon is making a trine to Uranus in the 8th house, which will show you where those limitations have been, those fears have been, and help eradicate them for you. And this will actually bring greater intimacy and connection in your relationships. Like, okay, maybe I can't hang out as much, but when I'm with you, I am 100% here. I'm a better person because of what I've been doing outside of our connections. And I have just more to offer and support you at this time of my life when I make sure that I have time for myself. Or the opposite, like maybe I'm taking a step away from work and dedicating more to my relationships. Regardless, I think that you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, I pulled the Divine Service card. So I think for some of you guys, you need to be focusing on what makes you the most of service. Does that mean taking more time out for yourself? Does that mean having more time for connections? Does that mean applying yourself more to your work or to your career? There is some way that if you want to make this bigger than you, like it's not just about what you want in the moment. It's also about how as a soul you are the best of service to this world. And taking that time out for yourself or for whatever it is that you truly need is what will actually make you the most of service, which will give you the most purpose and give you the most blessings in your life. So I think having that broader perspective can help you, instead of just making you feel bad, like, oh, I'm not doing this thing that I normally do, and feeling bad about it yourself. You guys are having Saturn move into your 6th house in Pisces. This is beginning a new 2.5-year cycle where you are learning more so how to manage your activities and emotions together. So Pisces is a very intuitive energy that wants to be in the flow, that wants to kind of respect its process of unfolding very naturally. And with Saturn moving in here, it's like it wants structure, it wants discipline, it wants routine, it wants our responsibilities to come first. So we need to manage the energy between both. With the Page of Pentacles and King of Cups, how can you use strong emotions like intuition, feelings to guide your activities, to guide how you begin things, how you manage things, how you explore things? And what you choose to explore. Like, are you going to go super into that? Or are you going to go, like, basically, are you going to dabble? Are you going to dive deep? Are you going to broaden? Those are all questions that Saturn wants us to answer, but we're going to do it through a more intuitive lens. So it's very important to manage your health with Saturn moving into your 6th house. That is going to be a big topic for you the next 2.5 years. And I'll be doing a whole separate video on this if I didn't already mention that. So don't worry if this is just really brief, because this is a huge cycle and I want you guys to fully understand it. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Libra. If this resonates for you, definitely comment down below and give me a thumbs up. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe and share it with your friends so more people can find my channel. Thanks. Bye. All right, up next we have Scorpio and Scorpio Rising. So we're talking about the Virgo full moon, but before we do, I want to mention that we have this really cool transit coming up on March 1st, which is Venus conjunct Jupiter in Aries. For you, that's happening in your 6th house. So many of you guys might start to feel like your mental or physical health will improve a little bit as a result of this transit. It can also bring you more opportunities in the workplace, or even just kind of helping your relationships within the workplace. If you've been having issues in regards to your schedule or your responsibilities, you'll start to notice that those areas might improve a little bit. I pulled the King of Wands, the Page of Cups. Many of you guys might be feeling more creative, more intuitive throughout your day, more inspired, happy, excited about what's coming up for you. So it just seems like a really good transit to have in this area of your life, because the 6th house is not always the easiest. And I think it's ultimately giving you guys like a leg up, an excitement, a good feeling that is going to get you throughout your day, or get you through your day. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the full moon. It's happening on March 7th. Sorry. At 16 degrees of Virgo in your 11th house. That means the sun is opposite it in your 5th house. So you're having a good concentration right now on all of your creative juices anyway. And so having the sun here is really just bringing your attention to what makes me happy, what brings me joy, what connects me to my children or my inner child, and how can I do more of that? And with the full moon in your 11th, this is a different story. Interesting. I just pulled the 4 of Swords and the 9 of Swords. This is interesting because this full moon, as I mentioned, is in your 11th, but it's squaring Mars in the 8th. And that is a little bit of a challenging one. As a Scorpio, you guys have been having, Scorpio Rising in particular, you've been having Mars move through your 8th house for many months now. It was going direct, it went retrograde. It was happening all the way since last year. And it is going to finally kind of be wrapping up over the next week or so. So you guys are probably getting that last little push of this Mars energy. And Mars in the 8th house can definitely lead to this kind of feeling of the 9 of Swords, of anxiety and fear, and just having random things kind of crop up over the last few months that could have felt really mentally challenging, especially with the South Node being in your sign. It's just a more challenging year for you guys, to be honest. But it's starting to get a little bit better, especially over the next few months. Things will start to be getting better. So you guys, again, you might have just felt more anxiety, more fear, more upset, worrying about things that in your life that you maybe are in a stalemate with this 4 of Swords, things that aren't moving forward in the way that you had hoped. Maybe you need more rest, for example, and you like literally need to take some time out and rest. But I really feel like mental health is kind of a big thing here. And this full moon could draw some of those things to the surface, because I think that all of us are becoming aware of how we need to create more routine in our lives that will meet both of our physical and emotional needs. And so, especially as a water sign, Scorpio, you guys, you can't just like bulldoze through your life and force yourself to be super, super productive without also having that emotional maintenance, that intuitive self-care. And I think that you guys will start to see how there may have been like certain goals or even friends or communities or things in your life that could have not like that needs some adjustments. Maybe you feel like you don't have enough friends or enough support, for example, and is giving you that anxiety or overwhelm. Or maybe you feel like there are issues going around in your community, or maybe you are seeing that you're not making progress on certain long-term goals, and there are things that you guys feel like maybe aren't just moving at the pace that you would like them to. And it could be making you have more self-doubt and more fear. And I really feel like you guys could be feeling left out in the cold with this 5 of Pentacles. This is when we don't feel like we're supported in some way. And this could be financially, feeling like we don't have enough money. This could be feeling like we don't have enough community or friend support. this could be like we're putting so much effort into stuff and it's taking so long. It's not really like manifesting at the rate that we would hope. And it's just really feeling that lack in that area of our life. And the Star card came out to show that this is healing, that you guys are at this full moon able to start working through some of this energy and to start to see how things are going to be looking up. And there might need to be some adjustments that you make, again, to your practical life, to how to take care of your mental and emotional life in particular. There might need to be some adjustments that you do in that area in order to make sure that you are healing. Maybe you guys have debt, for example, and you're needing to do certain, change certain behaviors or prepare in a certain way that will help alleviate the stress of that debt. And you're like lying awake at night. If there's something keeping you awake at night, like a decision that you haven't made or progress that you haven't taken, a project that you haven't made progress on, or debt that you haven't fully paid down, I'm really seeing you guys becoming aware of, I mean, you're probably already aware of that, but becoming aware of what behavior you can do to not just like take action towards it, but to also alleviate some of the internal symptoms of what's going on. So it's not just like, oh, I can do this to pay off my debt. It's also, what do I need to do to make sure I feel confident, feel safe, regardless of what circumstances are happening in my life? And I think this Virgo full moon is going to make that evident for you. And you have this full moon also making a trine to Uranus in the 7th. So your relationships are absolutely a great support system for you right now. You might find that it's actually through other people that you start to get the clarity, the ideas, the breakthroughs that will help you kind of have progress. I'm really getting the sense that there's not progress on something that you were expecting. And the area around like one-on-one work or partnerships or friends, like that specific area is undergoing a little bit of like dynamic change for the better. It's ultimately going to create some like freedom and alleviation and space in your life that you really, really need. You guys also have Saturn moving into Pisces for the next 2.5 years and starting on this day. This is moving into your 5th house of creativity, of fun, of pleasure, of business, lots of different things, hobbies, children. So, and I just pulled advocacy. Interesting. So I think that maybe a separate message here is that some of you guys might need to advocate for yourselves within some type of group or some type of entity or network or friends or community. Like, you might need to stand up for yourself to do what's best for your mental health. That's really what I'm getting here with the Mars square. Like, you might have to say, this is what I need. I'm sorry, I have to take these days off. This is a non-negotiable. Or telling your friends, like, I can't come to that party. I know I said I would, but I just really can't. It's not in my wheelhouse right now. And so there's something around that where you guys are needing to advocate for yourselves more. But Saturn moving into your 5th house is a lot about you guys becoming, like, weaving the areas of creativity and what brings you joy and pleasure and discipline. And how do I like create a connection between those two without it becoming overly rigid or overly fluid? And this could also look like you guys getting serious about having children if you don't have that already, getting serious about starting a certain hobby, writing a certain book, doing a certain passion project or business that you've always wanted to do. It's like, okay, you said you wanted to create that thing. It's time to create it. You said you wanted to live more in your own gifts and your own essence and like show the world what's so great about you and what your talents are. Like, let's go ahead and create discipline to bring those to life. Like, let's create consistency. Let's show up and actually do the thing instead of just talking about it. And as I said, I pulled the moon card. The moon is definitely related to childhood, children, intuition, mothering. So that could be a topic for you guys. But the moon is also related to our fears, our hidden shadows, the things that are underneath the surface of situations, the emotions that we don't always want to recognize. And this is a Pisces card. You can see the two fish swimming in opposite directions. So many of you guys may have to be moving through your emotions in regards to what it looks like to express yourself fully. So maybe there have been things holding you back. Maybe there have been doubts around, can I do it? Am I good enough? Should I even try? I don't know. And it's like, that's actually what's been holding you back. And Saturn will bring that up to the surface so that you guys can address it once and for all and actually take action on the things that you desire. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Scorpio. If that resonates, please let me know by liking and commenting down below. I love to read how this relates to your life. It really helps me as an astrologer. And if you did enjoy this and you want to share this with your friends, please subscribe and send them a link. I really appreciate you guys helping me grow my channel, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius Sun and Rising. So we are going to talk about the Virgo full moon, but before we hop into that, I wanted to address the fact that we have a beautiful transit coming up on March 1st where Venus is conjunct Jupiter in Aries in your 5th house. I think many of you guys are going to be feeling so creatively inspired. Many of you guys will be, if you have something that you have been growing that feels like it's a connection to you or an extension of you, like a child, a business, a book, a project. I think you'll really start to see that that area of your life flourishes. You feel a lot more inspiration and connection to it. And I think you're just gonna feel a lot more optimistic and joyful and more connected to the world around you. I pulled the 10 of Wands. So this really feels like you're coming out of a phase of being really overly burdened and overworked. And it's time where you can start focusing a little bit more on what brings you joy and what brings you lightness into your life. All right, let's talk about this full moon in Virgo, which is happening on March 7th at 16 degrees of Virgo in your 10th house of career. So many of you guys are having some kind of culmination period in your life direction, your life goals, your career. That means the sun is in your 4th house. So there is a focus more on your family at this stage of your life. There is a focus more on your home. There is a focus on how your emotions are, what you are like behind the scenes, how you're taking care of your life. And the moon in Virgo in the 10th house is like, what about the external world? You're having some kind of external culmination period. And that could look like having some kind of idea come through your job, some kind of event transpire. And a lot of this is like, it's earth energy. Virgo is very practical. So a lot of this is a culmination of all of our past efforts reaching some type of pinnacle. So, okay, I was super diligent and I got up really early every day and I worked out before work to make sure I'm aligned. And then I made sure that I signed on to work early and I worked late and I and I did this and I did that. And it's like, and then I got a promotion. Or it could have been like, well, I really let the ball drop at work in some of these areas and I really felt like, you know, I wasn't communicating clearly, and now I'm having some kind of event occur where it's like, oh shit, like I guess I have to put out this fire or deal with this relationship issue. And I definitely think that this could affect relationships in some facet or another, either relationships within the workplace or outside of the workplace, because this full moon is making a square to Mars in your 7th house, which feels a little argumentative, to be honest. Like Mars in the 7th is already a little bit like at each other's throats. So there might be something that you guys need to make a decision on in terms of how you're dedicating your energy or how you're taking action towards things in your relationships versus career and how you balance those energies. So there is some type of thing that isn't working here. There is some type of structure, routine, way of going about maintaining your life and career and relationships that may be somewhat imbalanced or that maybe needs a little bit of adjustments and care to address. And I pulled the 9 of Wands. Yeah, I do feel like you guys are in an energy of really pushing, working, striving. With the 9 of Wands, this is kind of like relentless energy. Like, I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to give up. The fact that I pulled the 9 and the 10 of Wands, these are the most exhausting cards in all of the tarot deck. So you guys might really be in a state of like burnout in some degree of feeling like, you know, I'm getting this culmination period. I'm reaching this pinnacle, whatever that looks like, but wherever I am, whatever that looks like, I am burnt out. I am depleted. I don't have my needs met in this relationship, or I'm not having my needs met in my personal life or in this workplace, and it's affecting my relationship. There's something around that where you're like, I just really feel like you're getting pushed to the edge a little bit here. And you need to readjust your schedule, or you need to set certain boundaries with partners or with people in your life to make sure that you have what you need, because I really don't think that this is sustainable with these cards that I'm pulling. And then I pulled the King of Pentacles. Yeah, this is being like that boss bitch, managing your resources, your time, your energy, delegating things to others, knowing where things go at what time and how to best just manage your energy overall. And I really feel like you guys are in a state of learning how to become just even more structured. Maybe some of you guys are already quite structured, but there's a leveling up of that where you're realizing truly how to take the best care of what you have with the resources that you have, and what is the right amount of attention and money and energy to each thing, and what is the wrong amount. And sometimes we have to just have things be imbalanced and be tired and be unmanageable and unruly for us to understand what we need to do to get things back on track. I also pulled the Knight of Pentacles. So this is also about not trying to rush things in your life. The Knight of Pentacles is about taking everything one step at a time. Many of you guys are probably building towards an even larger vision or goal. Yes, this is a culmination in your life with the 10th house full moon, but it's something that I think is going to continue to grow. It's not something that's like a destination. It's, okay, this is step one of this bigger chapter, of this bigger goal, or this continuous journey, or this continuous story. And so the Knight of Pentacles to me is saying, because it's not like a specific destination that you're getting to, it's ongoing. It's important to manage your energy along the way, because we can't just like sprint if we don't have an end line that we're running through. It's like we're literally going to just run ourselves into the ground. So I think you guys need to be hearing that this is about playing the long game, about creating a sustainable life for yourself inside and outside. And that sometimes means that you have to say no to people, or that you have to have certain structures in place even within your personal life and in your home and in your relationships to make that happen. This full moon is also trining Uranus in the 6th house. So it could show that some adjustments to, again, your routine are really necessary. And that's what's going to create more of that sense of freedom, especially how you manage your health, manage your mind. Those things are going to be super important. Lastly, we have Saturn moving into the 4th house. So you guys are focusing on building up that foundation long term. But how do we build our foundation within our home, within our emotions? We do so from a place of love, of compassion, of knowing what we want long term, making discerning decisions in the moment. So there is this mixture of energy between gentleness and structure that you guys are going to learn how to implement within your household over the next 2.5 years, and also within your own way of emotionally taking care of yourself and processing things. Lastly, I pulled the 4 of Wands. So some of you guys might be celebrating something that doesn't, this could be like a wedding that you're moving towards, for example, or some kind of like big life step or journey, or something worth celebrating that can be happening at this Virgo full moon or shortly after. So that's some kind of message here. I don't really know what that was about specifically, but having a full moon in the 10th house can be very much like a 4 of Wands moment of like, we're finally getting married. We finally got a promotion. Okay, I also pulled the humility and self-discovery card for you guys. So I think that in terms of, I think the humility is like humbling yourself in terms of, I cannot do everything. I am one person. I only have so much time and energy in a day. You know, I think I can do it all. I want to do it all, but realistically I can't. And I have to ask for help. I have to ask for support. I have to change the dynamics of my relationship or my day in order to truly support me. And I think it's having the humility to realize when you need to reach out. The self-discovery is also understanding yourself in each and every moment, and when you are getting to your edge, when you are getting burnt out, when you're getting overwhelmed, and what you need to do to pause and build up your energy again to maintain it for that long journey, because this is a consistent, long story playing out in your life. This is not a one and done thing. I know I've already said that, but I think it's super important to understand yourself, so that along the way you can check in and know, okay, I'm getting a little off track. Okay, I haven't been resting enough. Okay, I've been working maybe too little or too much, or focus here, focus there. So it's really about understanding yourself and checking with yourself every single day along that journey. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Sagittarius. I hope this resonates. If it does, please like and comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends if you enjoy this, so we can spread the message on my channel. And I hope you have a great one. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn Rising and Sun. So we're about to talk about the full moon in Virgo, but before we do, I wanted to mention that on March 1st, we have Venus conjunct Jupiter in Aries in your 4th house. If you guys have been having weird emotions or weird issues inside of your home with your roommates, with your family, this is when things start to get a little bit better, because Venus and Jupiter are the great benefics. They're coming together here to just give you a lot more ease, healing, relationship, peace, opportunities, abundance. And it's just going to be a day that I think feels really good, especially for you guys. I think you'll feel like if you're at home and you're with your loved ones, that you're going to feel a lot more comfortable in your skin with those relationships and just at peace in your life. And so It looks like a really, really beautiful day for you. And then let's talk about the full moon happening on March 7th. So this is in your ninth house in Virgo at 16 degrees of Virgo. The sun is opposite it in your third house. So you guys might be really busy right now. Whenever the sun passes through our third house, we tend to light up the area of our kind of daily tasks, our routine, not our routines, but like a lot of the little kind of busy things that we have to do, like running errands or getting homework done or sending that last email. It's a lot of that kind of little like flustered type of work, like, oh my God, I have so much to do today. So you just might be kind of a little bit more in that state. But anyway, with this full moon being in the ninth house, you guys might have an opportunity to learn how to juggle things in a little bit of a different way. I did pull the Two of Pentacles. So again, I feel like you guys are really busy. You have a lot on your plate. And I think with this Venus conjunct Jupiter in the fourth house, maybe you'll have a chance for rest. Maybe you'll have a chance for yourself for a second. And I just pulled the Six of Pentacles. So I think that you guys, maybe some of you guys could be worrying with this full moon in the ninth house about how what you're doing right now in the day-to-day kind of humdrum of life will play into your long-term goals, and how if what you're doing is going to pay off. And I say that because this full moon is making a square to Mars in the sixth house. And the sixth house has a lot to do with inequality or imbalances or just having like a lot of work and a lot of busyness. So again, a lot of stuff that you guys are producing and doing and worrying about, and not always seeing how this fits into the bigger vision. So I feel like this full moon is coming in here to kind of check in with that bigger vision and also restore faith that maybe you can, first of all, restore faith that what you're doing is going to pay off. And then second of all, because it's a full moon in Virgo, it's really about showing how our past actions get to certain results, and how we'll notice that some things don't get us very many results. So if you've heard of the 80-20 rule, which if you haven't, definitely look it up because it's like a very important rule of life, that 20% of our efforts produce 80% of the results, or 100% of the results or whatever. And then 80% of those efforts are kind of wasted. Something like that. But regardless, what I mean to say by that is, so this is something that we can see in nature. You plant a bunch of seeds, and then not all the seeds are going to produce the fruit, but then there will be a few that are extremely prolific. And so this is how we can look at our lives, because I do feel like you guys are very, very busy. And again, you're worried that you're not going to get all of this back for all the energy you're putting out. So I think some of you guys, because this is making a square to Mars in the sixth, will actually need to go through and prune the different plants and the seeds that you've planted and are watering that are not producing fruit, or that are not producing the right amount of what you're looking for. So it's maybe it's producing like 1 apple when you have another tree producing 10 apples. So there's something to be said for where does my effort go and what is worth my time and energy, and how to become more efficient and like tighten up the ship, if that makes sense. So I think that you guys are realizing what you want long term, what's going to get you there. And in that process, you're going to have to go in and prune your current reality of like, okay, maybe me doing this type of exercise every day, it takes this long and it's not getting me my results. Maybe if I do it this one with less time and actually just more intensity, it will get me more results. So it's like getting more for what you're giving. And I think that's really what this is about, so that you can feel very confident that you're going to have some kind of equality for the efforts that you're putting in. We also have this full moon making a trine to Uranus in the fifth house. So sometimes we might have to come up with creative solutions and focus more on creating like space and joy and pleasure and playfulness in our life in order to create that unique schedule. Because we're not just pruning our life so that we can work more. We're pruning our life so that we can also have space for some of the pleasures and the joys and the relaxations of life and the social aspect of life as well. But I think many of you guys with this moon card might feel really driven by some kind of shadow self to just be producing so much that you might not be fully taking into account like actually how you feel and actually where this is getting you and the bigger picture and how you're nurturing yourself. Because if you're doing this to ultimately have money so that you feel secure, you're doing it to nurture yourself. So it's like if you're destroying yourself in that process, it's not really getting to where you want to go. So the moon is having you check in with your emotions and your inner world and your home life, so that you make sure that that is all checked out, ready to go, and that you can produce more results on top of that. But you having that strong foundation where joy is a priority in your life. I pulled the 8 of Swords, the 10 of Swords, and the 9 of Pentacles. I really feel like some of you guys are really worried about money with this card here. Or at the very least, like, you're worried about, you're trying to like do everything on your own with the 9 of Pentacles. And this is telling you that you really need to take a step back. You are causing yourself too much anxiety by working so hard, and you're restricting yourself, feeling like you have to work so hard on every single thing that you do. And there's not this correct prioritization of things. And again, not everything's producing a lot of results. So not everything needs attention. Not everything needs that much. It's like, what's the right levels for everything? And then also asking for help and knowing when, like, gaining more information, gaining more support, gaining more knowledge, or whatever it is that you need will actually benefit you, instead of trying to do everything on your own and completely sustain everything on your own. Maybe you need a mentor. Maybe you need somebody who's done this before. Maybe you need to ask your friends to talk about your life, or maybe you need to rely on your partner to go pick up groceries while you're working super hard or something. There's definitely a need to like spread through your connections some of the stress and some of the responsibility, as well as lighten your load in some ways where it doesn't require as much effort. And I really see that with the 10 of Swords, that once you start doing this, this will really change the game of how you work, and it will actually create more of the financial independence and abundance that you're looking for. So it's actually, the stress is not going to get you there. And it's actually realizing that there's a different way to go about creating the success that you're looking for, that is more joyful, more easeful, that is going to get you what you desire. So that's, I think, a lot about what this is it's reimagining your future and believing different things about how you can get there, because it's not, the traditional route is not always the right route. The work super hard to the bone is not always the right thing for you. And you guys are having on this day Saturn move into Pisces in your 3rd house. I'm going to do a whole video on this, but it's beginning a new 2.5-year cycle for you, where you are really learning how to manage your mind and manage your energy. Because again, the 3rd house is our super busy house, but it's also our way of connecting to our environment, our people around us, asking for that help that we need, feeling like things are possible, changing the way that we perceive things. All of this that's happening at this full moon is kind of setting the precedent for the next 2.5 years when Saturn moves into your 3rd house. And I pulled the Queen of Pentacles. This is like badass bitch energy, somebody who has full control over their money. They're doing super well. They have the right structure in their life, but they also know how to work intuitively. It's the Queen energy. She's really respecting herself, her feminine energy, the creativity, the softness within her. She's cultivating that while also cultivating the kind of rough exterior of the masculine, where it's like, I'm going to have this done by this day, by this time. So it's like you really need both. And I really feel that you guys are working on that in this journey with Saturn and Pisces, because Pisces is a very feminine flow, intuition, spirituality type of energy, and Saturn is structure, discipline, get it done no matter what, consistency. So it's like, how can we have both? And I think that's a lot of what we're all learning right now, but especially you guys in terms of your mindset and your daily to-dos. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Capricorn. If that resonates, let me know by liking and commenting down below. If you did enjoy this, please subscribe and share this with your friends so more people can find my channel, and I hope you have a great one. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius, Sun, and Rising. So we're going to talk about the Virgo full moon. But before we do, I want to mention a really cool transit happening on March 1st, which is Venus conjunct Jupiter in Aries in your 3rd house. So this is such a great time to improve your mindset and communication. If you guys have been feeling a little bit down, a little bit doubtful, feeling unsupported, like your relationships are struggling, your communication is struggling, this transit is coming through to give you guys a stronger foundation. Maybe some of you guys will have a new idea, something that you can build upon to create more stability, more happiness, more wealth. Maybe some of you guys will have an important foundational conversation. Maybe you guys will have an important foundational mindset shift that will help you move forward in your life. But regardless, I really see that you guys are busy in a good way. Maybe you're feeling more social. Maybe things are being given to you in a way that helps you connect back with what it is that you truly desire. So I'm excited for that happening on March 1st. Let's go ahead and jump into the full moon, which is happening on the 7th. So this full moon is in Virgo at 16 degrees. It's happening in your 8th house where the sun is in your 2nd house. So right now with the sun in your 2nd, there's a larger focus on creating financial wealth for yourself, on focusing on your resources, buying and selling things, getting more money, kind of just like, not the grind, but like what comes out of the grind, basically. That's kind of the focus right now, is what's practical, what's tangible, what do I want to create for myself financially later down the line. And with the moon, the full moon happening in the 8th, this can bring up all of the little things along the way that can make us feel like we can't have what we want. And it can bring up, definitely, whenever there's a full moon in the 8th house, it can bring up definitely a lot of emotions and often a lot of insecurities. And I just pulled the Ferocious Femininity card along with the Divine Service. So there's something here around you guys being in a mode of receiving, because the sun is in your 2nd house. So in many ways, you are supposed to be receiving, or at least preparing to receive later on down the line. And then the Divine Service card is like, how can I be of service? So again, I can prepare to receive. So there's a lot going on there around like money, basically. But also what might block you from that ability to receive something. So the 8th house, which is where this full moon is happening, is money that we get that is not earned. So this could look like inheritance, things that come from the stock market, tax rebates, or it could have to do with debt as well, so where we don't have money. But it's shared resources, things that are given again. So you guys might be given something because this is a full moon. Some of you might be given something that you might like worry if you deserve it. And again, I don't think this is a message for everyone, but I just think there might be a handful of you out there who maybe need to hear that. And I think the message that for that person would be, if the Divine Service card, how can you use this gift to create more service or more help out in the world, and not make it necessarily like more about you, if that makes sense. Okay, that's just one specific message for somebody out there, but there could just be something coming along the lines of finances more at your attention right now, because a full moon in Virgo is a lot about a culmination or a result of all of our little past efforts. So did we save money for that thing? Did we overspend that day? Like every little decision that we make is such a Virgo thing. Our routines, our structures, how we manage our money, how we manage our emotions, and how that influences our finances, for example. So all those little things will add up. And at a Virgo full moon, we'll start to see kind of like the karmic experience of those decisions. And so for some of you guys, you might find that you have some type of payoff. You might find that like, okay, I did a lot of good work and now I'm getting something as a result. Or you might decide to make some kind of investment or go into a debt or into a loan or something to get something that you desire. And that's just a very like traditional way of looking at full moon in the 8th house. But I think it'll become clearer now how, again, okay. I don't know what is going on with like these cards do not shuffle at all. I like love this deck, but they're the worst card stock I've ever owned, ever. Let me pull some cards for you guys. Because a full moon, all right, we have the 5 of Swords and the Ace of Wands. So I feel like a full moon in the 8th house, as I mentioned, can bring up some of those like fears. And for some reason, I'm thinking the feeling of unworthiness or not being good enough is coming through really strongly. And that's why I thought that maybe some of you guys could receive something that you don't feel worthy of. But I also think that there are others of you out there who just don't feel worthy enough of creating something, or like don't feel good enough or proud enough to kind of put like your flag in the sand like this person is and be like, this is mine, I deserve this, I'm fighting for what's mine. And instead, that energy of like Mars is turning against you. So that's normally our courage, our confidence, our aggressiveness. Instead of it being used to go out and create what you want, it's being used against you a little bit. And this full moon in Virgo will draw your attention to that, will draw your attention to how your inner fire and your confidence and all those things has probably been misplaced at certain points of your life and is doing damage or is creating anxiety or even creating fights and discord with other people if it's projected outwardly. But it's not being like honed and centered towards like a long-term goal as well as it could be. And that's what Virgo energy again is about. It's like, okay, what are all those little decisions that I've made? Where are they leading me? Because maybe that one time you laughed that, comment off and you didn't set an important boundary, or you didn't take that compliment in, or you didn't ask for the raise, or you said, oh, you don't need to pay me for that. And it's like a lot of little things where we devalue ourselves, we don't respect ourselves in the way that we need. And it all kind of builds and builds and adds up to this state of like, oh, actually, I'm not in the state I want to be in because I have been using my willpower, my aggression, my masculine against myself or to keep myself small out of all these fears. And I really see that coming to clarity at this time, and you making adjustments to step more into your light and your confidence and your creativity with this Ace of Wands. Absolutely. And because this full moon is also making a square to Mars in the fifth. Mars in the fifth is like, here I am. Let me shine, watch me like create and act and do. And if you've been having any insecurities hold you back from like publishing that novel or getting your video or your music out there, or asking again to be like, for people to enjoy what you bring to the table or to value what you bring to the table through money, for example, it's actually finally making a change to your confidence level so that you can do that and put yourself out there into the world. And I think you guys are going to feel really like you're lighting your fire, but you're going to have to adjust your behavior and the little things that you do in your behavior to reflect back that sense of confidence that you want to have. This full moon is also making a trine to Uranus in the fourth. So maybe some of you guys will have to step outside of your comfort zone and do things that you haven't done before. With the Death and the Knight of Pentacles, I feel like you've been living your life in a little bit of this kind of consistent routine. You've been maybe going home and then I work on this thing, and then it's like you're never really like pushing it out there. You're never really doing something with it. You're never really like extending yourself beyond that, what you do behind closed doors, like on your computer or whatever. It's like somebody writing a book every day after work, but they're never actually like talking about how they're writing a book, promoting it to people, trying to publish it or do anything with it. And there's something here where I feel like you guys, you need to get out of the mundane. You need to get out of the consistency. Not that you need to stop creating or stop whatever it is that you're doing behind closed doors, but that you need to step into the next level and push outside of your comfort zone and make that meaningful to people or mean something outside of yourself. We also have Saturn moving into Pisces, which is your second house. So many of you guys are going on this brand new journey with the Fool card around your finances and your resources. So that could be over the next 2.5 years. And I'm going to do a whole other video about this, so don't worry too much about it now. But over the next 2.5 years, you are starting a journey with your finances and your confidence and your value and your worthiness that you haven't quite done before. And so some of you guys might be buying the house for the first time, or some of you guys might be putting your artwork out there for the first time and having to go through that process of, I don't know, am I good enough? And then slowly over time, learning to mature and value what you have to offer just through the consistent effort, just through putting it out there and pushing your comfort zone. And this could also go with finances, like, oh, I'm pushing my set point of how much money I'm used to making. It goes out a little further, and then I come to expect that I make at least this much a year. And slowly over time, over the next 2.5 years with work and effort, you learn how to expect more from yourself, value more for your life. And that is definitely going to help you build your skill set. With the Chariot and the Eight of Pentacles, many of you guys are going to be using your willpower to basically build the skills that will help you achieve that long-term wealth. So if there are parts of yourself, for example, if you are working on your novel every day after work and you're like not publishing it, this is like, okay, what do you need to learn next? Do you need to learn how to market? Do you need to learn how to self-publish? Do you need to learn how to be good at something else so that you become like profitable and not just an artist? So there's some other phase of like being mature in the way that you handle your finances and the way that you handle your craft, that I think you're going to be really learning how to hone in and perfect over the next 2.5 years. So that is what I'm seeing for you, Aquarius. I wish I said Leo. If that resonates, let me know by liking, commenting down below. I love to read how this is reflected in your life. And if you guys enjoy this, please do share this and subscribe so that more people can find my channel. And I hope you have a great one. Bye. All right, and last but not least, we have my beautiful Pisces sun and rising. So today we're talking about the Virgo full moon, but before we do, I want to mention a really beautiful transit happening on March 1st, which is Venus conjunct Jupiter in Aries in your second house. This is a really great day in terms of your finances, in terms of your confidence, and even sometimes your skills, where you're going to feel like you maybe make more connections that can help you develop those areas of your life, where you feel like you have an idea that can grow your finances, where you start to feel more confident, more blessed, or opportunities come by that feel healing to you in regards to your value and your worthiness and what you want to charge and what kind of financial future you want. This could also be great for buying a house, having resources in general that start to accumulate. And that's not going to be the case for everyone. I believe it's happening at 12 degrees of Aries. So if that's hitting a personal planet for you, you're going to feel this the most. So let's go ahead and dive into the full moon in Virgo happening at 16 degrees in your 7th house. That means, first of all, that the sun is in your 1st house, which is putting a greater emphasis and focus on your personal development in this period of time. So the spotlight is on you. The spotlight is on how you're caring for your body, your mind, your soul. And you're probably more in a phase of healing yourself as well, where you're learning how to grow in confidence and leadership. But this full moon in general is in your 7th. So that means that is a focus on relationships at this particular moon period of time. And the full moon in Virgo in the 7th will really show how past instances, past efforts, how we've shown up responsibly to our relationships has paid off or has not paid off in certain ways. And I think it will become clear the adjustments that we need to make. I did pull the star and then after that, the 3 of swords. So maybe some of you guys are going through a process still of healing things in regards to the past, where you're coming into a state more of balance, where if you've done anything to let things go or to shed off the weight or to try to leave the past in the past, let bygones be bygones, I really see that, making a difference here for you. And there might be some of that still left to work through, but that's okay, because I really feel that you guys are making big headway on that. Again, this is a full moon, but it's also squaring Mars in the 4th. So sometimes we can have a full moon in the 7th where something happens in our relationship, where something happens to someone we love, like a big break happening for them, a big idea happening for them, and it's not even about us, but it affects us in our dynamic because we love them and because we're with them or because they're important to us. Doesn't have to be a fit, like a romantic partner, any kind of person in your life. But as I mentioned, this moon is squaring Mars in the 4th. So there needs to be some adjustments in regards to a home or living situation, family or emotional ties to, and especially to our past. So there's something in regards to our way of operating in relationships and our plans for our home or our emotional functioning, our family. There is something there that's not quite right. There's something there that needs a tuning and adjustments, because Virgo is about systems and our lives are essentially ecosystems, especially when they're involving other people. It's like other species and how these species play with each other to create a symbiotic or difficult relationship. And so there's something here where there can be more of a symbiotic relationship between your home life and your relationship life. So there's something amiss here. And I think that you guys can make some kind of adjustments and you'll have some type of idea possibly come through that will give you the insight about what it is that needs a little bit of adjusting for you. Sometimes Mars in the 4th can simply be that you're feeling less settled than usual, and that's affecting your relationship. So it's like, how can we create that feeling of being settled and at home in your skin, feeling confident, like you have everything that you need for the future? And with the King of Swords as well, I think that you guys are needing to set up some clearer boundaries. Maybe you need to have some type of contract with somebody signed. Maybe you, the 7th house is also contracts and the 4th house is home. So maybe some of you guys are like starting a new lease or buying a home. And that could be what needs to be undergoing a change. Maybe there's something in the contract that needs adjusting for you to feel settled, or something within the home that needs changing. regardless, there's something that you guys need to set a boundary around and have discernment around to protect yourself. And this doesn't have to be anything crazy. It doesn't have to be like, oh, this is such a threat. But Mars in the fourth is indicating that there's a need to have a little bit more of that, like, oh, this wall is going to protect me. It's going to give me that time to care for myself, to nurture myself, to protect that softer side of myself. And if we don't have that barrier up, it's like anyone can come and go. Anyone can say anything to us. We don't have a schedule. We don't have, you know, that boundary that's gonna essentially do what it needs to do for us. So I think that's really important coming in here in your relationships, is reassessing certain boundaries and also how that relates to your home and your emotional life overall. We have the Hermit and the Ace of Cups. So I think that many of you guys are going on a journey of exploring more of your emotional nature. So this is part of what the boundaries can come up here for. If you guys don't have the time or the space or the energy to actually explore how you feel about things, to do inner work, for example, then you might need to establish, again, more boundaries with people where you're like, no, I don't want to hang out, or I'm only available this time, this place, or I can only hang out with this many people in a group because after I feel drained and I don't have enough energy for me. So it's like, how do we understand, how do we create our like cocoon for ourselves and understand what we need truly to feel satisfied, safe, and nurtured within that cocoon? And that's in our relationship with ourselves. So it's like really tuning in, what do I need in my relationship with myself? And how do I adjust my barriers and my boundaries and communicate with people so that they reflect back to me and respect that cocoon space in my life? And I think that this Hermit and this Ace of Cups card is about having those emotional realizations and check-ins with yourself. We also have the Knight of Pentacles. So this is about doing that on a consistent basis. Maybe you guys need to set up some kind of like nightly routine or something where you're processing your emotions around relationships or around people, and you need, like, again, that literally like carving out a physical space or a physical routine and time of day where you're like, this is me. This is my time. I will dedicate to this. So I think that you guys are really in need of that right now. Again, that self-protective mechanism, like this is something that you need consistently every single day. We also have this making a trine to Uranus, this full moon in the third house. And I think for many of you guys, you're realizing that as you make these changes, you are improving a lot in your mindset. You are communicating with greater ease. Your throat chakra is opening and improving. You're feeling like you have like the fun and spontaneity and freedom in your day and in routine. And that's because I think you're managing your energy differently and prioritizing this divine care. This is like a self-care card. I feel like this is really driving home what I'm saying, where you need to make yourself a priority. Absolutely. And that makes so much sense also with Saturn moving into Pisces right now. This is the first day it's happening, March 7th. It will be here for the next 2.5 years. This is a huge deal for you guys because it's in your first house. I'm going to make a whole separate video on this, but essentially Saturn moving through your first house is really making yourself a priority and responsibility, especially around self-care of your physical and mental health, but also around what are my long-term goals? What is really important for me as a soul? Am I connecting to my true nature? Am I doing the things that I need to do to get where I want to go, to be the person I want to be, to feel nourished and satisfied? And Saturn is going to make sure that you create more of that structure and discipline and consistency in around those areas of your life to make it happen. Saturn's like, okay, we need to commit to something for ourselves. We need to commit to our dedication to our own maturity and our own growth. And this cannot happen if we're super focused on relationships. So boundaries, communication is super clear right now. Discernment is super clear. And then you can attract the relationships of your dreams with this Two of Cups energy. You can attract that soulmate energy or cultivate that really, really beautiful love in relationships and that relationship with yourself as well, because you are dedicating and maturing and focusing on yourself. Then we either find that beautiful relationship with ourselves, cultivate it, and then maybe somebody else can come in, or our relationships with everyone else improve. So don't have the belief that this is going to hurt your relationship or this is going to somehow hinder it to have boundaries. This will only help it because you are nourishing yourself first. So that's what I'm seeing for you, Pisces. If that resonates, let me know by liking, commenting down below. I love to read all of your comments. If you want to share this with somebody, please subscribe and send them the link, and that will help grow my channel. I super appreciate that, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.